across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
In February 1952, for the second time in British history, a government abolished national identity cards. The first set of national identity cards were brought in the First World War to assist with the issue of conscription. The second set of national identity cards were brought in the Second World War in order to assist with conscription and rationing. And when Labour won the 1945 general election, Clement Attlee attempted to keep them on the grounds that they were helpful to access public services, helpful for policing, helpful to access the new National Health Service. Well, a guy called Charles Wilcox went all the way to the High Court in London to say that national identity cards were un-British. The reason was that time and time again, police officers were demanding that people present their ID over more and more minor offences. And the judge at the time said that he believed national identity cards were criminalising law-abiding citizens and were fundamentally un-British. In line with his party policy, long-standing party policy, Winston Churchill abolished national identity cards. Well, this is now the fourth time they've been proposed. They were brought in, as I say, in the First World War and the Second World War. Tony Blair failed. Is Keir Starmer going to succeed where Tony Blair failed? Let's just remind ourselves of the Tony Blair proposal. The idea was that you would go into any public building and you would simply whip out your national identity card, and when you put it into the machine, the police officer, the bureaucrat, the person who works for the NHS, the person from the DHSS would be able to access all of your records to find out everything about you. Absolutely marvellous, isn't it? And that's before they left the pen drive with all your details on the bus, which is simply an inevitability if this project comes in. I'm joined by Lois McClatchy-Miller and Dr. Callum Miller. He's refused to call himself Dr. McClatchy-Miller. That's because he doesn't like her that much. No, I'm joking. I'm joking.
Because I won't let him.
Yeah, OK, so, look, these national identity cards, it's just the wrong thing, isn't it, Callum?
I think it's odd that there must have been some cabinet meeting where they sat around and thought, OK, we're really unpopular. How can we look less like creepy authoritarians? And it's almost like, what about digital ID cards? It's just, it's you know, when you look at the proposal, it doesn't seem crazy on the face of it. You know, it looks like it could be helpful for certain things.
Oh, it'll save the children, won't it? It'll always save the children.
But save the NHS.
Do it for the kids.
And immigration now, they've added that in.
Even with a government that was more trustworthy, I'd be open to the idea for certain limited purposes, but...
It's a communist.
But the thing is, in order to do anything like this, you need a high level of trust, and this government, I mean, the past several governments, have just not done anything to win the public trust, and so...
Can you get closer together, because you are married?
It's not that, it's because of the armrest, isn't it, that's pushing her out of the way. But here's the problem. If you look at the Second World War, it was poor record keeping in Italy, coupled with Christian groups, that stopped the Holocaust being particularly effective in Italy. In most countries, 80% of Jews were rounded up, and only so 20% survived. It was something like that. Whereas the other way around in Italy, meticulous record keeping in an age where there's a growth in Islamism.
Well, in Holland, that's where most of the Jews proportionately, because they had great records. And if this system ends up in a tyrannical government, oh, right, they are a tyrannical government, so they already are there. And once you open that door, it's not just for that. It'll be your money, it'll be on it. Like these ULEZ cameras, they're not for old cars, they're for future. They're facial recognition cameras, they've got the lenses all built in. They're not just for old cars that there's hardly any of. And once you open that door, it's the same with the euthanasia rules. Once you bring that in, it'll widen and widen. And they're already talking about new laws where once you get punished in court, you might get banned from football matches on top, pubs. I mean, who does that affect? Oh, yeah, white, working class. Yeah, so this is all what's happening. And as I said to you when I came in, and that bloke, it's interesting, he said, it's just not the British way, is it?
Right. Anyone who doesn't think this is a slippery slope is deluding themselves. I mean, you said that you'd be okay with it under a government that you trust, but you know in 4 years that's going to be a different government. And the crimes that we're seeing being prosecuted.
But we don't trust this government.
Right. Well, exactly. And the crimes that we're seeing mostly prosecuted right now is like tweets and people's opinions. And so that, you know, if your record goes onto your ID card, and it's so easy to start prosecuting these people even after a crime that they should never have been a crime in the first place.
Let's be clear on one thing, Lois. If Hezbollah get into government, which they may well, there could be like a Labour, your party coalition. I know they've been a bit of a mess, but they've got big support. What is the government department they will ask for? The Home Office. No doubt about it, because when it comes to Islamists, leftists, CND people, all of these guys, the number one interest they have is policing in the Home Office. So it may well be that you have a jihadi Secretary of State administering the scheme.
Yeah, it could be that, or also, you know, it will count against people who have said things like a man is a man and a woman is a woman.
Yeah.
Our opinions are so policed socially by everyone right now that giving that kind of authoritarian teeth, legal teeth, to be able to prosecute further.
I'll tell you what I could do. Using probably AI at the moment, but quantum computing would bring it back. If I was able to identify who Lois McClatchy-Miller was, I could then open up my phone and go, what has Lois McClatchy-Miller said about the following topics?
Yeah.
Right. So say I get you on an anti-abortion rally, which is something that you'd be quite keen to be at, and I think, not very keen on this woman. Let's see if we can get rid of her somehow. Is there something we can find in social media? If all your files draw everything together, or you could say, I mean, this has happened with a number of people on the right, where they've gone, let's find a crime to convict this person of, and then suddenly, if all the data's brought together, it's going to be easier to do that. Lest we forget, one of our friends who will remain nameless, who gets raided every single month by the police in Bedfordshire, whilst Anjam Chowdhury down the road can't be raided by the Bedfordshire police on the grounds of human rights, and he's an actual terrorist.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I mean, as someone who has been arrested, I'm very conscious of this because...
Oh, yeah, she's got form.
Yeah, so when things... When I was arrested just for expressing my belief that children cannot consent to puberty blockers, if that's something that goes on my record and a future employer doesn't like that I said that, right now, because I was never charged, it's fine. No one will never need to find out about it unless I tell them on national TV.
Unless it was a non-crime hate incident, then they'd find out without you.
So were you arrested in Britain or Belgium or
Belgium.
both? Belgium,
Yeah.
okay.
So right now it's totally fine for me. But if we have a system where everything we do is tracked on a card and things like that show up, that's not the British understanding of justice.
Here's what I would do, Callum. If I was say a medic, if I worked for the Social Security Office or whatever, or a police officer or anything, and Dr. Callum Miller comes in and I'm dealing with you for some reason, whether it be a broken leg in a hospital, whether it be you've been stopped for a breathalyzer or whatever, some random thing, I'd just go, I wonder who this bloke is, and just look it up. It would just become
and
a matter.
quickly run out the door.
No, but it'd just become a matter of routine, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
And it'd be like, oh, that's quite interesting.
I do that anyway with doctors. You can always look online and see. You know, what I mean, all this thing already exists to check people out. This thing, it's as I say, it's for further. They want to put our money on it, don't they? And so they can control us, do the social credit system like they're doing in China.
Right.
I mean, they're sort of hand in hand with China.
Yeah.
We don't know why they're being allowed to build this super embassy, which is basically a military base in the heart of London.
It is, yeah.
I mean, we're not cans of beans. We don't need barcodes to keep track of us. We're human beings. You know, we have a level of autonomy that the government can't override.
The mark of the beast. Over 1 million people have signed a petition to not have... And I don't think it will get through it, but we just don't like that. And I think they will have to back down, hopefully. And they're saying by the end of Parliament. I mean, is Farage coming out and saying, well, as soon as we get in, we'll scrap it? I don't know. What's he been... What have they been saying?
So. I haven't seen anything, but
I mean, he should be saying that, shouldn't he?
It would be a typical reform position, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but he should say it.
Yeah, he should say it.
It's just crazy that they just keep doing things that are obviously tyrannical and authoritarian. Like, think that we won't notice. Like, I was in the US recently, and it just became much more obvious, you know, with the advanced data protection you get on iPhone.
Yeah.
That it is perfectly fine to get that in the US. You can get advanced data protection, help keep your data secure.
Which they've banned
in
here.
the UK.
Well, apparently Apple won their case, but they still haven't brought it back in, because I got an iPhone the other day and it says in the UK you can't have end-to-end encryption. But apparently Apple, you know, under the pressure from Trump and Vance, they've gone back on this Apple thing, but Apple haven't still changed it.
I don't know what the latest
UK,
is, but the fact is, you know, the UK government asked Apple for a backdoor into all of their
and
citizens'
WhatsApp and all the
phones,
others,
which is just absolutely
Although
insane.
I've got a theory about WhatsApp. Right. Have you not, no, on the serious note, right? So the head of MI5 and MI6 go in the media going, please don't use WhatsApp. We can't decrypt it. If terrorists use it, we won't be able to read it. They've never said that about Signal. They've never said that about Telegram, have they? I've got a theory that the only reason they're saying it because it's not true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They really want people to use
I've
WhatsApp.
heard rumours that Signal is an FBI thing as well, so I mean, who knows?
Well, the government will have software, I would have thought, that can just put your mic on. I mean, the Israelis have invented a software that can just crack in your phone. You don't even have to accept an email, and they sell it to governments. I'm sure Britain will have it. And they can just put your camera on and listen to you and go through every app.
But talking of systems that are set up by countries, was it Encro? The phone system for drug dealers.
Yeah, it didn't work out too well, did it?
Which was set up by the FBI, and literally they were the company selling them. And I mean, similarly, if you want to talk about people being able, non-state actors or state actors being able to infiltrate, even the example of the pagers by the Israelis, right? Okay, they're explosive rather than monitoring, although I bet they monitored as well. But I do worry about the fact that all of this data is being monitored by foreign countries.
Well, TikTok being another example. Famously owned by China, and the addictive substance of teenagers across the US. When Trump came in and tried to ban it, even Trump didn't have the power to get this app out of his country because so many teenagers rise up and went insane after one day of not
And in China, they
this.
have all educational stuff. I mean, it's almost like a weapon for them to make our kids' brains mush.
My favourite thing about TikTok is when they say, and true of Huawei as well, where they say, no. Chinese companies are owned by trade unions. Sorry, owned by their workers. What, through trade unions? Yes. There are no independent trade unions in China. So literally, it's just all the government. Yeah. It's shocking.
It's all government,
but I have to say, there's been this example of this website. I talked about it yesterday, where women can post in a particular area in Coventry and go, I used to date Bob Jones, what's he like? All of the facial recognition, all of the data of all the women has been leaked on 4chan. Yeah. So the other issue, which I worry about, is that quite often the British government is not spying on you, it's just waiting for the day when it'll leave the laptop on a bus and lose it all.
Yeah.
That would never happen, Andre. What are you talking about?
There's also the massive liability of just the fact that everything is a smart device these days. Like things like Alexa. Why do you need to be able to say, Alexa, put on a different piece of music?
You've just set everyone's Alexa off.
Hey Google, that's so irritating.
Does anyone use Siri? Probably not.
Alexa, forget that. But Alexa, at 11 p.m, remind me that the James Whale clip's coming on.
I'd forgotten that. I'd honestly forgotten.
Alexa, remember to set your alarm for Plank of the Week. What time is it? It's out. It's on there now.
Hey, I'll tell you what I like, by the way, before we go to the break. What about Triggered with Samara Gill? Have you seen that?
Alexa, in 1 hour, remind me to watch Samara Gill on Triggered. And Alexa, what just happened tomorrow? No, is it at 10 a.m. tomorrow on YouTube?
Yeah, but the slight problem is that's actually doing stuff in people's houses.
No, but it's useful stuff.
It's not useful. Anyway, no, we're not going to do any more, but you can watch my YouTube channel. It's at Andre Walker.
Alexa, go to a break.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yes, this is Talk. This is Andre Walker, Asher Gould, Lois McClatchy Miller, and Dr. Callum Miller are our 50% co-host each. So you're co-hosts today.
Thanks.
Do you like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Two become one, right? That's so they are both political commentators and social commentators and campaigners on various issues, and happen to be married, but are both contributors on this show in their own right. So it's not two become one. It's become
Just think sort of Richard and Judy.
It's become a bonded two.
Anne and Nick,
Anne and Nick,
It's a real
but
boost to
married.
my self-esteem.
Cannonball.
I feel so
Hale
validated.
and Pace.
You're a great team.
The Chuckle Brothers.
Little and large. That's not very nice. Right, okay. The next story is one that's chosen by you, Lois.
Yes.
What is it?
Well, J.K. Rowling, wise woman that she is, right on a lot of matters, has come out against
Has she?
assisted suicide.
Shut up,
And
Ash.
this is particularly significant right now because there is a bill going through Westminster and in Scotland to try and legalise assisted suicide, which, as we've just been talking about, giving the state any power is obviously a terrible idea. It's a slippery slope. And who thinks that the NHS that is riddled with scandals, that's constantly, I think it was only yesterday I saw
Riddled
news-
with scandals of killing the elderly. Let's just be clear.
Indeed.
Right.
I mean, it was only yesterday I saw a maternity scandal of another NHS health board being sued by lots of different mums for neglect and care in a maternity unit. And so how can we think that there will be no accidents across this country, that no lives will accidentally be lost? And we're dealing with the most vulnerable people. You know, if you are elderly or sick, that doesn't protect you from mental health crises. You know, you're equally likely to hold depression and to have suicidal thoughts. And in any other situation in life, if we come across somebody who's having suicidal thoughts, we call the Samaritans. We encourage them that their life is worth living. We come alongside them and support them.
I thought about something recently, and I remember saying this to James Whale. Now, please don't turn off halfway through this. There's a point here. I said to James Whale, look, ultimately, the cancer is not making you sick, it's just killing you, right? What's making you sick is the treatment. So actually, when we talk about people in phenomenal pain, very often there's people who are in treatment who have a fighting chance of living, who are in pain. Callum, perhaps you can say I'm right or wrong on this, but it seems to me people are in pain going through treatment, right? And then there are people who are close to the end of their lives who are actually just quite heavily medicated. Anyway, the number of people who are actually in pain when treatment has been a complete failure, and there's no painkillers that can deal with this. And how big is that category,
It's
Callum?
really small. It's very, very small. And this is what most people don't know, because the public say they support euthanasia, let's call it what it is, because of these terrible cases where people are in intractable pain and so on. And yes, those cases do happen, though they're very rare. But when you look at the statistics from places like Oregon or Canada, and you ask the people who are undergoing assisted suicide, why are you doing it? Pain is one of the lowest options down. Very few people say pain. And even when they say pain, it's because the question is phrased in a way that says fear of pain.
It's a loaded
Right.
So some of them don't even have the pain, they're just worried that they will feel it in the future.
Right.
When the reality is, most people say, I feel like I don't have dignity anymore, I feel like I'm losing my autonomy, I feel like life is not valuable. And these are not...
Or on the
Yeah.
These are
burden
not
on the
problems with
family.
pain.
There was a guy in
These
Canada
are
who'd run out of money
existential
and they
issues.
allowed him to do it. And I've got a friend who, well, there's a couple and they're in their 70s now and they've got a daughter who's 50, but she got starved of oxygen and she's like a 5-year-old and they're terrified.
I'd love to be like a 5-year-old.
Well, I mean, this is terrible because they're worried that when they're dead, she'll be on her own, and by that time, doctors go, "Oh, it's not worth the living." They'll just, do you know, this is how it'll get.
Sorry, I didn't mean to be flippant about that, Asher. Clearly, that is a major problem.
Yeah, I mean, they're terrified about it.
Well, ultimately, if this is the reason that people are having basically state-endorsed and state-sanctioned suicide is because they feel like they're a burden or they feel like their life is not meaningful, what's actually happening there is someone is saying, I feel like I'm not valuable and I'm a burden to others, and the state is saying, you're right, die.
Yeah.
Yes.
That is literally what this is about.
But also the other problem is we were talking the other day about the cost of the elderly to the taxpayer, and actually I thought a long time about this, and in reality what we have is what the Americans call death panels. So there are already assessments as to whether treatment is worthwhile or not, and what we basically say is we say, right, okay, towards the end of your life we will give you treatment, but it is only within the context of knowing that it will extend your life, and therefore I think that is a relatively sensible equilibrium, right? And I think most people would agree when a doctor says there is benchmarks for quality of life. What will happen is there will be penny pinching. They'll go, but look, if what we do is, what you could say legitimately is, let's not bother giving any transplants to anyone over the age of 70. That would cut NHS bills massively. But you would start thinking about this. And I think the other thing that I would put to both of you, and hopefully you won't be in this position, but those people who are, say, Christians or Jewish or Muslim, who have religious views, they'll go and don't have any family, they'll go, they're the nutters. Right? They've been given the option of lethal injection. They've chosen not to do it, so now they can stay in this dump.
Right, no, absolutely.
That's what will happen.
Yeah, I mean, religious or not, anyone who just wants to continue their life, which is their absolute right to do so, will be ostracised. And the level of care that we currently provide to those who are weak and vulnerable is bound to decrease.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
And that was where Streeting's concerned.
Yeah.
And he is Secretary of State of Health.
Yeah, one of the most sensible Labour positions that I've heard.
Which is not a high bar, right? That's not a high bar.
This is one of the craziest things about it, is that their own people are saying, this is not safe.
People.
I'm in charge of the healthcare service and I'm telling you this is not safe. And the other MPs...
But the government don't even run the country. It's a civil service now. We know that. It's just a charade. It's just an act, a soap opera. We know that they're not in... I mean, Liz Truss said that she could never do it. She was Prime Minister and she had no power.
Well, she didn't have time to do anything.
She didn't have much time, but she couldn't have...
I thought what Jake Berry said in his book was extraordinary when he was chairman of the Conservative Party, and what do you call it? He went in and all the head of MI5, head of MI6, head of the Cabinet Office, all of these people said to him, you cannot have a leadership election for the leader of the Conservative Party. You're just going to have Rishi. And they said, what do you think about that? And he told them to F off. I'd have had the doors locked and had them arrested for a coup d'etat. Because that's what it is, right? If you say, we've got rid of Liz Truss, you will now have Rishi Sunak, and there will be no democratic input, I'd have had Sunak arrested.
Well, indeed, that's definitely one world I would love to see play out.
Yeah, that's great. That's great, isn't it? Can you imagine the army marching down Downing Street and there's Sir Jake Berry in charge of this? But the point is, we are not in an age where the government is or democratic controls particularly in, and I have to say, people will just say, look, the elderly are a waste of money. Be better putting it into children's care. Although I will say one thing about the NHS, children's care is brilliant. But it just worries me. The whole thing worries me. And also the other thing, and I just want to ask you two this. I imagine that you are throughout your lives, been pretty broad-minded about politics and, maybe on occasions considered voting left, considered voting right, or whatever. Why is the Labour Party, the two things that they're really, really proud of is abortion and euthanasia? No. I mean, if I had...
The party of death. That's what they are.
If you gave me the levers of power for a year and I was to list the things that I wanted to do, just... Killing the vulnerable would be so low on that list. In fact, it wouldn't be on the list.
Right.
but even for somebody who is in favour of abortion and euthanasia, there's so many other things they could do with that majority.
Well, especially when it's already legal up to 6 months for any reason. We already have one of the most liberal laws in the world, and yet they are still so fanatic.
No, we don't have the lowest liberal laws. We have the most liberal system. The law says there has to be harm to the child or the baby. But we all know abortion on demand.
But they want to do it up to 9 months, which is just murder.
Yeah, well, it's a strange sort of fanatical obsession everywhere among the left in the Western world. So if you look at the US, the Democrats have, say, 200 people in the House of Representatives. They had one pro-life congressman, a single pro-life congressman. Yeah. And they spent millions of dollars trying to get rid of him in a primary to get at someone else. Because
the left are obsessed. Well, you look at, Stalin and Chairman Mao, they don't really care about life. You look at the reaction to Charlie Kirk, they are a bit deranged, aren't they? Yeah. And when they get in power, we see what happens.
But also, when you're talking about women's rights, I think there has been a great diminution of women's rights in this country, and I think the direction of travel is just very bad news, to the extent that somebody like me, who never thought of myself as a feminist, now I feel quite determined determined that we've got to protect those rights, and it would be wrong of our generation to pass on fewer rights to women than what we inherited.
Which rights are you referring to?
Well, I'm talking about things like the right to enter women's sports.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the right, you know, when you're talking about in Scotland, 50% of women, 50% of people on the board should be women, where the definition of woman is, I'm a woman, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But however, one set of rights that my nieces never talk to me about is abortion. Right? They don't say, or my right to be a prostitute, and they're keen to reduce the number of regulations on prostitution. And for me, it's just fake women's rights. It's not real women. Who goes? I mean, I'll tell you what many people might say, God, I want the right to be able to have a child and not lose my job, which I think is important. Oh my God, maternity cover is not as good. I would love the right to childcare so I'm able to be a mum and go back to work as well. All of those things, but I want to kill my unborn child. It's not the real solution to the problem, is it?
Exactly. No little girl says, I want to have an abortion when I grow up. And I think that's so telling. Well, why has this become the focus of the feminist campaigns when nobody actually wants this? And we know demonstrably that abortion can cause increases of depression, suicidality, drug abuse.
I've got friends of mine who've had abortions, and you know, I think regret's the wrong word, because obviously it was a set of circumstances at the time, but I guarantee none of them are happy.
Yeah.
They're not happy about it. I mean, they're pretty upset about it.
It's a tragedy, and it should be recognised as such. You know, I think what kind of turns everyone's stomach is when we see activists go out and say, like, shout your abortion, it's the best thing that ever happened. It turns people off, and I think they don't maybe realise that. And I think the Labour government, in pushing for it up to 9 months, that's turned a lot of people off who wouldn't necessarily have thought about it much, but are now hearing, you want to be able to kill a baby, an unborn baby, right as it could be born alive. Why kill it? Why not let it just
murder, isn't it? You'd get charged with double murder if you killed a woman and she was 8 months pregnant.
It was a great shame. I realised that we as the pro-life lobby, you are the pro-life lobby because you actually do something. I'm somebody who mentions it. When I went to the Republic of Ireland for that referendum, I realised that we'd got it quite badly wrong, because actually abortion in the case of medical necessity was also illegal, and therefore the whole debate, there was whatever it was things like Down syndrome, I forget, but anyway, when it got to it, it was women talking about the very extreme examples that ended up being the debate, and we knew what was going to come afterwards was abortion on demand, which was a great shame, really. Great shame. It's not so much that. I just wanted to mention that Spitting Image has just launched again. It's now really popular on YouTube and whatever, and they've made a video about Charlie Kirk's funeral, which I think is pretty awful, really. It just shows you that when we think that the reprehensible comments that have happened in the United States of America, the encouragement of political violence that's happened in the United States of America can't happen here. Remember what we're about to show you from Spitting Image. We'll show you it later in the show. Also, it has to be, I have to say to you, I want to rebuke the Liberal Democrats for F off and die Tony Blair that was being sung from singing hymn sheets at their conference. You know, we can't have political violence in this country, and major political parties and TV shows should not be encouraging it. Now I think you can go.
All right, 03444991000. You want to talk about anything, and a bit of Slovakian news after this.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yes, this is The Late Show with Andre Walker and Asher Gould, and we've got James Whale coming up at 11. By the way, the gallery told you...
Well, no, it's a clip of him.
Yeah, I was going to say.
He's not come back yet. Celebrating the life and with playing clips every week.
You got told off for that last week.
I did that last night.
Yeah. No, just to be clear, that as a permanent memorial to James Whale, and simply because we've got hard drives full of clips of him, we've decided to do a clip every single week on Friday at 9 o'clock. Actually, I quite enjoy it.
At 11 o'clock.
At 11 o'clock, sorry.
Yeah, man.
Sorry about that. OK, so the next thing is rules in Slovakia. I don't know who brought this in.
Yeah, this is the big Slovakia news we teased you about.
But let me just remind you what it is.
What is it?
Slovakian Prime Minister Fico, I assume that's his surname, right? Mr.
That's
Fico.
his nickname, Fico.
Fico, OK. He's won a controversial vote on on constitutional change which makes same-sex couples ineligible to adopt or have surrogacy. Are you happy or sad?
Well, I think this goes to the question of women's rights, that we're talking about real women's rights. And surrogacy, I think, is a violation of real women's rights.
Yes.
I don't think anyone has a right to have a child. And the idea that the surrogacy industry can kind of commercialise this to grow a baby for you and essentially, I mean, money has changed hands for a child, I don't think that is right.
I worry about this a lot because I had a friend of mine and I said that he's about to get into a lot of trouble with his children. So what he did... Very, very rich guy. He got a Moldovan egg donor and a surrogate in North Cyprus, which, let's be clear, because there's no extradition or legal arrangements between the UK and Northern Cyprus, and then got the kid and whatever. That's all fine until the child has its DNA done and then suddenly finds whatever dump the family had come from and how badly exploited the mother was to be forced to sell her eggs on the international market. And I think he will get into a lot of trouble because inevitably, if you grow up in £1 million house in London and go to private school and you know that you're the result of an egg donor, you're going to find the family.
That's why so many countries are banning it. It's exploitation of, no rich, wealthy woman is saying, oh, I think I'll be a surrogate. It's poor women. It's poor women who need the extra income.
And it's the rich people who are buying.
But are the surrogates normally the biological mothers?
Not necessarily. So they can import.
And that's safe, is it, Callum? I mean, sorry, I don't want to ask medical
no,
advice.
All of this has risks, and so a lot of those risks are underexplored.
Yeah.
And this is part of the problem, is that it's kind of experimental to a degree.
Because I'd have thought if you inject eggs into a woman and they're not hers, is there no risk of them being rejected? Or I don't know.
Well, you wouldn't inject the egg into someone else. You would fertilise it outside and then implant the embryo.
IVF and then get the embryo.
But for example, the process of stimulating for the egg production in the first place for the woman who does give the egg, whoever that is, that has certain risks and so on.
It's linked to ovarian cancer, for
example. It's not easy, is it, getting eggs out, egg harvesting? It's
a very invasive process.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why they are paid money for it. But then it actually puts the child at risk as well, because surrogate pregnancies, because of that IVF element of not carrying their own child, can lead to preterm birth more often than not.
Yeah.
Normally in the womb, a child bonds with its mother. It learns her smells, the sound of her voice.
Yes.
It's a soothing mechanism. But it's actually so heartbreaking when you watch those videos of a surrogate birth and the baby is born and it's snatched away from its mother right away.
Oh, that's the one where it's actually she's given birth. That's horrendous.
It's gone and placed in the arms of strangers who probably are well-intentioned and probably are lovely people. And I'm not having a hard go at anyone who wants to have a child.
But the thing is, they're sometimes not lovely people, because when you adopt a child, you have to go through the most huge, rigorous process to make sure you're not a paedophile, whatever, incredibly rigorous.
Yes.
To get a child by surrogacy, you can be a convicted paedophile in many countries.
Yes, you can.
In many countries, you can be a convicted paedophile and buy a baby.
Because what they tend to do, because people are going to be quite confused by that, what they tend to do is, if you've been convicted of sex crimes, you may be banned from working with children. but almost certainly that won't include your own children unless you are a specific danger to them. The idea being that even people who jump out of bushes are not going to harm their own children. But of course, in the case of surrogacy, who knows how that works? We also don't know about the psychological bonds that might exist or otherwise.
We had this case the other day about a guy, I can't remember which country it was in, where he's just made dozens of kids through surrogacy.
I think it's Japan. They discovered a single man, living in a flat with 11 babies that he had acquired through surrogacy. So there's very few.
Well, also, let me just tell you, this documentary, I don't know if you've seen it, Three Identical Strangers, which is a guy goes to college having done a gap year, and when he arrives, everybody says hello to him, and he's saying, well, are these people friendly or what? And then somebody knocked on his room door and said, are you a twin? And he says no, but in the end it turns out that separated at birth, and then they found a third one, but three of them had been separated at birth.
But they did get in a Madonna video, didn't they?
Here is the really interesting thing about them, though, and talking about separation from the mother. All three of them were the parents, when they got them, didn't know they'd been separated, and they complained about strange behaviour in the cot, things like head banging and intensive crying and all this sort of thing. So they'd been in the womb together, and obviously when they got broken up, now obviously by the time they were adults they didn't know anything about this, but there was bizarre behaviour that was explained. Now, that proves that it proves something that we already know, that you do create emotional bonds in the womb.
Of course.
Well, and there's some, like telekinetic links with twins.
There was a study about 10 years ago that found that when French babies are born, they cry in a French accent. And when German babies are born, they cry in a German accent. I don't know what this sounds like, but...
I saw a husky with an Italian accent.
The baby in the womb actually picks up their mother's voice and language and accents in the womb.
Yeah.
And then, they would do.
Yeah.
And the heartbeat, apparently, they're quite keen on listening to one's heartbeat.
They have found with children separated at birth, either through surrogacy or through, a trauma, like adoption or whatever, they have found that as they grow up, they can have long-term attachment issues, behavioural conditions.
Yes.
Like, you really are putting these kids at a disadvantage.
The thing is, just because you don't remember what it's like to be a baby, though I'll be honest with you, lying on your back with a bottle in your mouth sounds perfect. Perfect to me.
And wearing a nappy.
But,
saves a lot of time.
Just a few years away from that now.
Big safety pin.
But actually, clearly, those are formative years in the same way as going to school are formative years.
It's the developmental impact on your brain, isn't it? And I think it's important that whenever we're having these conversations, it has to be a child's rights first. It has to be child's benefit first.
Never is, though, is it?
And often it's just adults'
So why gay people adopting is why is it a bad idea?
I have concerns about any child being deprived of a mother.
Okay.
And I have that probably from, maybe as a girl, I have personal experience of just having a bond with my mum that is very different from the bond with my dad. I love my dad, but we have a very different relationship, and if you look at parenting styles, often if it's a child, one parent will be tossing the baby up and catching it, and one will be saying, not so high. We both know in that scenario who's who, right?
Yeah.
So we have different benefits.
Have you seen that photo difference between mum and dad, and it's on a slide, and mum's with the child going down, and dad's just throwing the
exactly. And that's like it benefits kids in different ways. So, they get the rough and tumble and the adventure from their dad, but they also get the care and the nourishment that they need from their mum. And it's just a biological fact, and that's the way for thousands of years how we've
So your view to summarise is, it's not really that the gay couple thing is my problem. My problem is that we should be doing everything to support the traditional family.
Well, it's a child-first perspective, right? It's what is best for the child, and often as adults we need to sacrifice what is best for us or what we want in order to promote and protect a child's interests. And I think this is one of the most extreme examples of that, of it is a sacrifice sometimes to be like, I might not get everything that I want in my life, but is there a way that I can, can I take care of nieces and nephews and get that feeling of family from elsewhere so that I don't deprive a child of their mother, that I don't take them away from a family that they, or country, or connections that they might have had. I think, we're a selfish kind of society in that respect, and I think we have to kind of take those glasses off and say, let's put children's rights first.
I'll buy that. I'll buy that. But what about the gay people who'd be upset? Do we just say, who cares?
I think, as I said, as Lewis said, it's about putting the child first. It's saying that ultimately what adults want to make their life perfect or to, you know, fulfill some dream they have is not ultimately the most important thing. And some people will hate me for saying that, and that's absolutely fine. What adults desire is not the most important thing. The most important thing is what children need. And what a child needs is their biological parents who are going to be their
But what about, say, kids in an orphanage and there's a gay couple? You see, I saw a guy spoke and he said it was much better than being brought up in a home, being brought up by a gay couple. And so maybe for that, you know, why would you need a surrogate kid as a gay couple? Adopt a kid, you know, 3 or 4 who needs a, you know, a home. Because he hasn't got a mother anyway.
I think adoption is so much better than surrogacy, because in surrogacy you are causing the trauma. Because you are commissioning it. You're saying, I will pay this money and I will take the baby. You cause the trauma to the child, and then the same person has to then spend their lifetime trying to heal that wound, that mother wound. But in adoption, so a terrible situation has happened to that child, and you're able to go in and help something that has inevitably happened. I think it's much more wholesome. It's better for the child. It puts the child first. I think that's better. And it's not just about, you know, same sex versus like heterosexual. If we can't have a child, we might not be able to. And then I wouldn't let myself, you know, have a surrogate. It doesn't make a difference. I just think that, you know.
But would you adopt?
Yeah. I think so. Well, we haven't.
No, okay.
I'll tell you what, we've got a 2-minute little break, and we'll come back with the answer in 2 minutes. Take a little break. We'll find out after this.
Do you know what? I'm going to read out a comment from my own YouTube about ID cards. Right, it comes from S triple R12, who says that what he believes is going to happen is that everybody will have their monthly carbon ration, and then as you go out spending throughout the month, it'll clock up how much carbon you've used in the end, and then they'll say, right, that's your carbon for the month now. You're not allowed to spend any more. I have to say to you, I don't believe that will happen, but I believe that if Ed Miliband had his way, that is precisely what they'd do. That I've said this before, he is a religious extremist and his religion is climate change.
But don't you believe they'll put our money all on there so they can monitor everything? Well, that's worse, isn't it? That's our freedom gone.
Yeah, so
the
what
mark of the beast.
What will happen is that it's not the card so much as the database that sits behind it. What will happen is the police will be able to bring up all of your bank accounts, all your previous addresses, absolutely everything.
Oh, by the way, you've had 2 minutes while Bully's bored, span around. Have you decided to adopt? Yeah.
We haven't figured it out.
We'll come back after the other break.
That means no.
We wasted 2 minutes.
That means no. No, I'm joking.
Well, a special prize.
Sorry. Do you know what makes me laugh? This turned into the Jeremy Kyle show, whereas actually,
Get the lie detector.
just to be clear,
child.
Dr. Callum Miller and Lois McCatchy Miller have come on as political commentators, not to
Well, you've spoiled the show. You better send that child back to the orphanage.
It was just. I was in the zone in that moment. It seemed like
We had a boy and a girl.
It seemed like a relevant question. Right? Yeah. Just send them back. Send them back.
More gruel.
There we go. Don't get us on to gruel. The subject.
Ovaltine, so mate. Well, we'll talk about that later.
Right. Okay. But by the way, we just got to explain the gruel thing. Right, because
it's important.
We love this. We've been for ages working out what items for sale in Britain are gruel. Right,
Because you think gruel's terrible, but it isn't, is it? Tell them what it is.
No, so because our friend Charles Dickens so discredited gruel, now nobody ever sells it as gruel. So like Horlicks and Ovaltine are gruel, but nobody sells it as that because they go, I'm not buying gruel.
Right.
I think wasn't. But Oliver Twist, see, I think gruel has had a bad press. He always goes mad when we talk about it. Because always remember, Oliver Twist wanted more of it. He didn't want more of it. He didn't want less. Right.
But the Ovaltine window is shifting.
Right.
That's the second time I've used it.
I refuse. Can I tell you something about the Overton window? Right. I refuse to look up a definition of it. I've now guessed what it means, but I didn't want to because people used it that much. Anyway, we've had a bit of a laugh now, but I do want to show you this thing from Spitting Image. Look, let me tell you something. I'm no snowflake, and I don't believe that we should be attacking free speech, but I do believe that everyone has a responsibility. I've said in the past that Quran burning should not be illegal, but I would never speak to you if you did it, because I think that is, just setting out to upset somebody for no reason. Let's have a look at what Spitting Image said about Charlie Kirk. Take it away.
Let's get ready to sorrow! Stop your thieving and start your grieving. Live from Arizona, it's the inaugural Charlie Kirk Mornified.
My fellow American supremacists, we're here today to remember my dear close friend. God damn it, the teleprompter's broken. What was his name again? What does that say? Oh yeah, Charlie Kirk. Charlie got shot. I met with his beautiful widow, Erica. Newly single, by the way. Interesting. Won't be for long.
Rest in peace, Charlie. You hated DEI, and so they made you DIE. Charlie Kirk Mornified.
Okay, so let's just be clear about what we're talking about here. We're talking about the fact that Spitting Image and its producers believe that it is insincere to care about the death of Charlie Kirk. They believe that Charlie Kirk's funeral was hijacked by a political rally by people who were not interested in him, and in the case of Donald Trump, didn't even know him, making a joke about, let's be clear, making a joke about dating his grieving widow, or at least having a brief fling with her. Let me tell you something that's extremely important. I, and many of you, have watched the video of the demise of Charlie Kirk. I don't know whether I should have done that, and I don't know whether it's in poor taste for it still to be on the internet. But I will say to you that a shooting is a horrendous sight for anybody to see, particularly members of his family. This man was not a hate preacher, nor was he a genuinely a political figure in the conventional sense. He's somebody who stood up for his religion, stood up for his principles, and stood up for something that's more important than that, saying to ordinary people, you have a right to be enfranchised within the system. You have a right to your own views. I'm not going to allow your universities to prevent you from speaking. I'm going to go out and I'm going to risk my life and then die in order to protect your right to free speech. What on earth has happened to the left in Britain? What on earth has happened to the left in America and across the world where they believe that hatred and violence is appropriate? Why are they saying to everybody that now you should loathe your opponent and try to kill him? Why were the Liberal Democrats singing F you and die Tony Blair, handing out song sheets to do it at their own party conference? We deserve to have a sensible and coherent debate. Not your gulags, not your Charlie Kirk shootings, not Tony Blair should die. Genuine political debate. There are major issues facing this country and facing this world. I believe that Charlie Kirk made an effort to address them. People in campuses across America believe that as well. And when I see what's taking place in Britain, the ridicule and mocking, and then when I see that bogus Oxford Union president who got an A and 2 Bs in order to get into a college because he was of an ethnic minority, to watch him debate Charlie Kirk and then celebrate the man's death a month later makes me sick. This channel and this show is all about free speech. We will continue to defend that free speech, and as far as I'm concerned, Spitting Image should apologise, not because they're crass, offensive jokers, but because nobody's going to watch garbage like this, and it's an insult to the original makers who were genuinely funny in the 1980s. That's all I've got to say about the subject. What do you think?
I do not get offended easily, but I've never been more angry about a video that I've seen in my life. That was disgusting. Not only am I outraged because a man with a 3-year-old daughter and a baby was shot for sitting with a microphone and talking about his beliefs at an event which people wanted to come to, but I'm also maybe even more or equally angry. I don't know if you watched the memorial, the real one, but his beautiful wife, Erica, came out and addressing the nation 11 days after she lost her husband, the father of her children. She gave the most beautiful speech and found it within herself to forgive the man who shot her husband, Charlie Kirk. That takes immense grace. I mean, she clearly has a compelling Christian faith, and she demonstrated to the world the power of forgiveness in this culture war. She wasn't going out there and saying, everybody go and riot the street. She didn't go out there and say, you know, make a mockery of this man or, you know, commit violent offenses in Charlie's name. No, she actually extended forgiveness. I thought that was the most beautiful thing that can be done in this crisis situation. And for her to have made that effort to forgive the man who killed her husband, to be mocked on a stupid...
But they believe, the makers of Spitting Image and the political left in general, believe that she is fundamentally evil and just pretending for political gain. That's their genuine...
They'll say, oh, she's killing people indirectly, you know, who are trans, who are this, who are that, and that's what they'll use as their excuse.
I think there's just never been a more clear example of this kind of good v evil element of the culture wars. A man sitting peacefully talking about what is good and true and beautiful, and talking about family and talking about free speech and encouraging students to live well. Him being shot by someone so crazed by the idea that a man. But
that is the problem when you're talking about Christianity and sin and whatever. Look, if there wasn't this world of hatred and abuse, that guy who shot Charlie Kirk, we don't know because he's never made a statement yet, may well believe that he was ridding the world of a fascist who was going to start gassing people like Adolf Hitler. If he believes that, Callum, I would suggest you he's got good reason, because he's been told by half of the American media that that is true.
Well, this is the thing, you know, there's been an attempt, I mean, first there was this crazy attempt for them to say that he was actually a MAGA supporter, that he was right-wing, which was
ridiculous.
And I think
Jimmy
even
Kimmel,
now...
wasn't it? And he got suspended, now he's back.
Yeah, even half the Democrats now think that that's still true. It's just completely insane.
The bullet said, catch this
but
fascist.
then even beyond that, you know, like you say, it's... There's an attempt to then distance from the shooter and say, look, he's a rogue actor, he's just an individual, he's not, you know, representative of the left. The reality is the mainstream left in America approved of what he did and stoked on what he did and fanned the flames of what he did. And then it was no surprise that he went and did it.
But what about Alistair Campbell and Rory Stewart, the rest of his politics, who say that the right has hijacked this and we're exploiting it in order to silence the left?
It's very rich coming from Alistair Campbell. Exploiting a crisis for, like, political...
Well, they always accuse their opponent of what they're guilty of. I mean, there was a woman in America who was so anti-Trump that to prove that paracetamol, Tylenol as they call it there, wasn't going to harm her baby, she took loads of paracetamol. She's currently dying of liver failure in ICU, and they're trying to deliver her baby. They don't know if they'll be able to. And this is the derangement that they have. They hate Trump. And this was a Harvard study anyway. So she took a load, and obviously that, you know, as a doctor, if you take paracetamol, it's a very painful death over days, and there's nothing can be done about it.
Unless you've got euthanasia. No,
well, she euthanized herself, basically.
That's awful.
Yeah.
I find the whole thing ridiculous. And the big problem is the people that sit around and go, hey ho, this doesn't prove anything about hatred in politics. I mean, that if nothing else, we can all agree that that's nonsense.
Yeah.
Anyway. Sorry, go on.
The thing, you know, there's this attempt to say, oh, it's both sides need to, you know, cool the temperature. The reality is everyone knows that the main problem of political violence is on the left.
Yeah.
And we know this.
No, Neil Basu from the Met doesn't know that. He's the only person.
We know this because once Charlie Kirk was shot, you did not see store owners across the United States boarding up their shops, getting their shotguns out ready for riot.
Callum Miller and Lois McClatchy Miller, thank you so much. We are now,
Thanks, guys.
we're going to go to the news. Back in a mo.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, as you know, this used to be the James Whale Show with James Whale and Ash Gould. Obviously, James died now a couple of weeks ago. And so at 11 o'clock on a Friday, we've decided to have a permanent memorial to him, which is to show one of his clips from the back catalogue, which Asher Gould will introduce.
Now, this goes back a while ago. It was our friend, well, not our friend, it was Femi Oliwole. Now, Femi Oliwole, you know, he wears a very tight T-shirt. He comes on and spatters. He's about 65. He's an activist. He's very anti-Brexit.
Claims to be young.
He claims to be young, but we think he's about 53. He wears tight T-shirts like a kid. And we had him on various times, but this time it was about white privilege. So here's James Whale and Femi Oliwole.
Let's get back to the point of white privilege, because, you know, I'm quite happy to call myself gammon, man, anything you like, I don't really care. But the idea that because I happen to be white, I'm more privileged than you because you happen to be black, it's just ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
And racist, it's a racist term, isn't it, really?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so what would you say to the fact that Oxford University sent out 3,200 job applications that were identical, except everything but the name, and they changed the name based on basically ethnicities. And the names that came from Asian backgrounds had to send 70% more job applications to get a call back. Those were from Nigerian backgrounds had to send 80% more applications to get a call back, and 90% for Middle Eastern. That's meaning that essentially your ability to get a job in the UK passes through a filter of racism. So essentially, if you are white, you don't have to do as much work to get a job. Now, you pointed to working class white kids earlier, and that actually proves the point. If working class white kids are underperforming at school, yet overperforming at the levels where people's individual choice and the selection of employers comes into play, that actually proves the systemic racism, that even with less qualifications, they end up doing better.
Well, no, they don't. The white working class don't end up going to Oxford, do they?
On average, if you are black and working class compared to white and working class, your prospects in life are lower.
I don't think that's right, is it? I thought it was the other way around.
No, it's rubbish. That's rubbish. It depends. No, I won't have that. That's rubbish. It is not. As far as education goes, it kind of depends on a lot of black kids, and particularly Asian kids, do far better than white kids in education because their families, in many cases, base a lot more, quite rightly, a lot more value on education than quite often some
because we have to,
white families.
Because when we reach this field of employment, we then get discriminated against using the facts I just mentioned.
Well, but white people get discriminated against, don't they, in jobs? You know, you never say we want white people to get jobs. It's. You know.
I was going to mention this point earlier because you mentioned how some. You mentioned how some police officers, there might be some roles whereby they don't accept white people. If you had 100 green people and 100 blue people, and the 100 green people had £1 million each, and 99 of the blue people had £1 each, but one of them had £2 million, would that mean that white and blue blue and brown people are equal? No, one outlier does not change the fact that, as I said, the math shows you are statistically discriminated against if you are black, Asian, or Middle Eastern.
No, it doesn't. And what it shows is that if you're black, Asian, or Middle Eastern, and you're British, presumably, that's why you're living here, born here, brought up here, so you are British, I'm British, he's British, we're all British. You know, there are minorities within it. Now, there are rather pink, hammy, gammony people like me. We happen to be the majority, and it seems perfectly acceptable now for the majority to allow, not all of them, it is a few, this is a minute few with big mouths who keep shouting the odds all the time. And I think some people are now beginning to get fed up with it. And the problem, Femi, is that what you're saying, what organisations like Black Lives Matter and others are saying, are beginning to cause more racial disquiet in this country than there has been for some considerable time. And I think that is wrong.
Let me just rewind what you said. We, as the majority, you meaning you as in white people, have the right to feel annoyed that you have people such as myself complaining about the fact that the system, as proved by the facts shown by Oxford University, benefits you, white people, the majority, more than
Oxford University is woke.
It's maths.
Oxford University proved it's been woke.
They did maths. It's just maths. They sent out 3,000.
I find the word maths offensive.
Of course you do. That's because you're a snowflake. The illiberal metropolitan elite. As for
I'll tell you what I am. I'll tell you what I am. I'll tell you what I am, Femi. I find people like you offensive, and that was racist. And now you can go. Okay, that was racist. Call me a snowflake. If I was to call you something like that, you go. Bye, Femi. You're off. I have never, ever. Do you know?
No one's ever called you a snowflake.
I mean, I am so angry. I'm going to go for the gin bottle in a minute.
Get the bottle, yeah.
You know, calling me a snowflake on my own show, what the hell does he think he's doing?
Wokey whale, we've heard that before. Since you've been at the BBC, a bit has rubbed off on you, but you're getting it back. I breathe, man. But there just shouldn't be any racism in anything. And if there is racism at universities, they should be, you know, chased down and it should be sorted out. It should be just on your merit.
Exactly. I would have thought... At the moment, the universities seem to be doing everything they can to make sure that you know, people are, the majorities are given the minorities are given the majority help. Now, I'm not saying there isn't privilege, but what I am saying is that it hasn't really got to do with the colour of your skin. No. And what we're doing at the moment is we are overcompensating And that is going to cause enormous problems. I don't think I've seen any problems between people of different coloured skins. I don't even, if you say things like, I don't notice the colour of people's skins, it's their personality, whether you like them or not. Well, it is, isn't it? And I'm just flipping fuming about being called a snowflake.
I can see.
I mean, if I called him something, that sort of, which it refers, I suppose, to the colour of my skin as well.
Well, no, snowflake doesn't, I don't think. No. Well,
okay. But, the fact is that people now think it is acceptable to say white privilege, you're gammon.
I mean, that is racist, I think. I think that, you're saying you're white and privileged.
It is racist.
And that was James Well and Giant Haystacks talking to Felmy Ollie Wally. Now, actually, I looked a bit like Ralph in The Muppets, didn't I? Do you remember the piano player? But the thing is, I'd given up smoking. I'd piled on the pounds. I was falling. I put it on that quick. I was like a week. I was falling over just walking. I hadn't
really. Did you waddle?
Well, no, I didn't waddle, but, because I put it on so quick, I hadn't got used to it, so I'd get up and then just fall down.
Who was that bloke from Slim Fast? I was so fat, I waddled. Yeah. That was me, James Bethel, before I joined Slim Fast.
To be personal.
Actually, I think James Bethel
was a very hurtful time.
I think James Bethel was the guy who set up the Ministry of Sound.
Barry Bethel.
Yeah, Barry Bethel.
Barry Bethel. Slim Fast.
Barry Bethel. Yeah. Oh, who's that other one with Sillet Bang?
But he was in, I think he was in the radio business, Barry Bethel, wasn't he? Anyway, we've got our friend on.
Okay, well, we know that we're going to do our front pages in a couple of moments, but what we're going to do is we're going to, first of all, bring on George Madrick, who is the Reform leader at Portsmouth City Council. So I guess you've had a significant thing with identity cards and whatever in Portsmouth for a while, what with all the military people and whatever, but for the general population to have to carry them, I think is madness.
Yeah, good evening, gentlemen. Thanks for having me on again. It's really good to be here.
Hi, George.
Listen, this identity card makes me unsettled. And for the last 24 hours, I've been hearing a lot of people say, but you already have a passport, you already have a driving licence, your ID is already on your Facebook page, etc. But they're all optional. And
that also proves we don't need an ID card.
It's just ridiculous. And what I always go back to, and this is what I've been saying to a lot of people in the last 24 hours, what I always go back to is just remember what happened in the COVID pandemic, where they made everybody have an app on their phone that you scanned, and that app had to get you into music venues, into restaurants, into bars or clubs. It had to get you into NHS healthcare. And I remember not having the app on my phone and not being able to literally go to a concert in a large hall. And I really worry that's the kind of slippery slope we'll end up
Well, they did that to set this up, people are saying. That was just to test if it would work. And once they saw, the stupid population, our stupid people will fall for it, let's do it.
And once it's been implemented, make no mistake, it's almost going to be impossible to reverse.
And it'll widen. It'll be your cash will be on it, and they'll ban you from trains. They'll ban you from travel.
What about
football, pubs?
What about this wild conspiracy theory, which has no basis whatsoever? But I'm gonna give it to you anyway. Somebody says, somebody from my YouTube channel said, in the fullness of time, you will have your monthly carbon ration. And what will happen is, if, say, Ed Miliband becomes Prime Minister, they'll say, right, the most important thing is your carbon, and therefore what will happen is once you've run out of your carbon for that month, you're not allowed to drive anywhere, you're not allowed to go on holiday anywhere, and you have to save up your carbon throughout the... I bet you they'll do all sorts of things like that.
And also what they'll do, it'll come from the UN and start and go, we can't do anything, we're being ordered by these, big international organisations that now get them off the hook because they say, well, it's not our fault, it's the law.
Because they can't blame the EU anymore.
Yeah.
And you've got to remember, you could be right and you could be wrong. And the problem is with that is it's going to be in the hands of whomever is in charge of the government of the day with their own opinions and their own notions. So ruling...
Which is currently a rogue government.
Yeah, exactly. But ruling anything out that could happen is impossible because we just simply don't know what the government of a future day will use that for, and that's what the real concern is.
I'll tell you what my concern is. We look at this party, your party, or Jezbollah, or whatever you want to call it. I don't like calling it your party because it sounds like I'm saying your party, George, rather than the party of Jeremy Corbyn. We know for a fact that this party has political support, even if it is a bit disorganised. If they get their act together, they could end up in coalition with Labour or the Lib Dems or whatever. And the first thing any jihadi or any extremist or any CND person or any mad lefty person goes for is the Home Office. If they become, say you had a jihadi Home Secretary, they would be in charge of all of this data. That would be a nightmare for British people.
Yeah, and some of the people that do support this, your party at the moment, are of deep concern to me. Deep concern.
Yes.
Or Jeremy Corbyn, for a start.
Yeah, really concerning. And, you know, some of them do have quite extreme views. And you're right. And you'll know all too well, if that minority party, like your party, we'll call it in abbreviated commas, Jeremy Corbyn's party, does hold the balance of power, then essentially they hold the keys to the kingdom. Thus, they'll be given whatever they want to keep that government in the day in power. So if that means giving them access to the Home Office, that is what they shall get. And I agree with you. There is real deep concerns here.
And of course, the other issue is we know that both Angela Rayner and David Lammy are very pro-China. They're in favour of that ludicrous intelligence centre at the former Royal Mint. You know, cross-border sharing, question mark. Also loss of data. What happens when the Chinese government hack all this?
Well, this is another thing, right, is that when you're controlling so much data, they are receptible to people coming to steal that data. We've had multiple examples of people stealing mass amounts of data on scale. And if this is such a rigorous digital ID that apparently can tell everybody's data in one, that's a lot of data that can be infiltrated by rogue governments and by people that are not genuine. These type of things are made to fail. There's no real security efforts, especially when they're digital. You know too well that digital can always be broken. Physical is a lot more difficult. And yeah, it could go into the wrong hands. And we still don't know what our data is going to be on there. We don't know if it's going to have our mortgage or rental records or our health records or our blood type. Who knows what's actually going to be on
Well, that'll be more and more. I mean, this has all come from Tony Blair, who's been trying to do it for years. Why do you think he wants to do it? What is the reason behind it all?
What, Tony Blair? I mean...
Well, what is the reason for Tony Blair? Yeah, but what is the reason? He wants to be the king of Gaza now. Have you heard the latest? But why does he want to bring this in?
No, stop, everyone. Stop, everyone. Sending Tony Blair to Gaza is the only sensible thing that Keir Starmer's ever said. I'm very much in favour of that. But why
do you think Tony Blair was so gagging for all this?
Yeah, I'm not too impartial about Tony Blair going to Gaza either. But you know, it sounds like a good place for him to go. But listen, Tony Blair's got family that are involved in these kind of industries, and you know, let's not make any rash assumptions. But I will be keeping an eye on where those government contracts go, because his son is very, very much in the world of digital IDs and digital data and so on and so forth. So it'd be very interesting to see where these contracts go. I mean, Tony Blair has had massive influence on this country that most people don't even realise since he stopped.
He's the one that wrecked it, if we're being honest.
Well, he destroyed the Constitution with tens of thousands of new laws, which is why we're in the entanglement with the lawyers at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely obliterated them. And it's such a shame for someone that got such a massive majority, right? And he used that massive majority to change the country for the worse, and it's going to take decades to recover from. The man's always been irresponsible, always been irresponsible.
Well, he's always known that he is an enemy of the British people, and the British people are an enemy of him. I mean, let's remember what Margaret Thatcher said about Neil Kinnock, that she said it was a fundamentally disreputable job that Kinnock had, which is to try and persuade the public that the Labour Party is not what the Labour Party are. I mean, you can say many things about Nigel Farage, but it's clear that people agree with what he wants to do, right?
Yeah, it's one of those things as well, right? That people go, oh, yeah, but he's just a populist leader. And I'm like, what's the problem with being popular?
That's right. It's better than being unpopular.
Well, that's what Blair was, wasn't he, really, at the time?
It's such a weird term to use populist as like a negative thing. I mean, populist means you have popular policies.
It means of the people, literally, which is democracy. I mean, it's just another word for democracy.
What they mean, and when I worked in the European Parliament, what they'd always do is, this is the way they talk. They'd go, you are just a populist. You're reducing every debate to... So you'd go, we want to stop immigration. Then you go, well, everybody wants to stop immigration, but it's too difficult, can't do it. Right? It's not about popular policies. It's about saying, there, you are morons. We understand how difficult this all is, and we all agree, but we understand why none of it can happen. That's what it means.
It's a bit like, you know how people into indie music will go, oh, you're into that commercial music. It's a sort of snobbery, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
It comes from the same sort of place.
You've hit the nail on the head. That's exactly what it is. It's from a snobbery aspect, 100%. And there's people that are like that amongst MPs and council level as well, that they run wild everywhere. And for some reason, they just go along with this trend. They go along with this kind of this linear tunnel vision that things can't change and things can't be done because that's the way it's always been. But the people are ready for change. I think we've seen that over the last few years now, and I think they're going to get a real shock in the coming years, and real change is going to happen, hopefully.
Yeah, well, we think so. Right, are we going to start the papers now?
No, we have to go to a break and then go to the papers.
Okay, let's do that then.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, I'm just going to repeat what they said in the gallery. Tony Blair, King of Gaza.
The Messiah is here, the second coming.
Ash, continue. Right, what
well,
do we
apparently,
do?
you know, he had such a success of the Middle East envoy with the Arab world falling into turmoil at the worst it's ever been. They've decided to make him, that he wants to be the new king. He wants a big position. And the King of Gaza, he thinks he can sort it all out. Do you reckon he's got a chance?
I mean, genuinely, who on earth thinks this is a good idea? Like, let's talk serious for a minute. No, it's not a good idea.
Yeah. I do.
It's not a good idea. This is not going to end well in any capacity.
Which is why we want him to do
it. Yeah, well, you know, it could be the end of Tony Blair potentially, so maybe it is a good thing.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you this. If I was British Prime Minister tomorrow, I would follow what JFK said. Do you remember when he said that he was going to put a man on the moon within this decade? I would put a man on Mars within this decade, and that man would be Tony Blair. On his own, on Mars. Let's make him governor of Mars.
He'd probably go for that.
He would.
It's a big position.
Go for that. Yeah, he would go for that.
But I'll tell you what, why don't we talk about this as if it was sensible?
Yeah.
What about the idea of a foreign governor of Gaza? I've talked about it for a significant amount of time, and I'll tell you why I've talked about it, George. What I've said is, Gaza has proved something remarkable, that the more aid you give to a bad government, the worse the government becomes. Because obviously, in addition to being incompetent and dictatorial, it's now incredibly wealthy and it attracts theft and all that sort of thing. And I believe, and many people may disagree with me, some people may think I'm even crass for saying it, but I believe that the 7th of October attack was at least in part the need to get a war in order to disguise the mass theft of aid. Had there been a peace deal in the Middle East, then the ability of Hamas leaders to steal aid would have been much more limited, much diminished. So my argument was this: given that you've got no independent courts, given that you've got no judicial oversight, given that elections are decided by who you throw off buildings, given that independent media has been abolished, given that the education system is thoroughly corrupt, given that financial oversight's gone, given that you have to have a separate UN aid agency because genuine aid workers will not work for the one in Gaza because you have to be a terrorist to join. Given all of those things, is it not time to sack all the police, sack all the military, sack all the judges, sack all government officials and bring in people from outside to rebuild the thing from scratch?
Look, I'm sure there's arguments on both sides of the fence, but I think history tells us that when we go into these areas and try and take over, most of the time it doesn't go well.
Yeah.
And even if you wait 4 decades, 5 decades, I mean, look at Africa, the colonization of Africa, where the British Empire went over there. Eventually they get kicked out. Eventually it doesn't go well and they get overthrown. It's not something that over our history and decades of history, if not centuries, has ever realistically gone well. And there's going to be no one really within that Middle Eastern bloc that's going to be happy about having a British-led leader in Gaza. It's not going to be a resolution that is palatable for the Palestinian people or for the people of the Middle East, in my opinion. And I think because of that reason, it might work in the small future, in the 2 to 5, 6, 7, 8 years, but realistically 20, 30 years down the line it will cause another war because they'll want to reclaim their lands. I don't think it's the solution that they think it is. I really don't.
Well, what about a Jordanian governor, and bear in mind that Jordan is a Palestinian state?
Look, I think that a governor from that region would need to be the person that's in place. Look, I think everybody can agree on every political spectrum that Hamas cannot, under any circumstances, occupy or govern that land whatsoever. But I think it's important that we are mindful of who we put over there. If we're talking really serious now, we have to be very mindful about who we put over there and who we appoint. You know, as I say, look at Afghanistan as a big example. We spent billions, if not trillions of pounds. We lost a lot of lives over in Afghanistan. And 2 months after leaving it, it's taken over by the Taliban again. You know, we've got to be really careful.
Yeah, but I mean, what would we do if we install democracy? There are 80% would vote for Hamas now in the West Bank and in Gaza. So what does Starmer do then? Is he going to be a colonial power and say, no, you can't have the people you want?
Well, because also you've got to remember that this Hamas, you know, will be indoctrinating the kids now. They'll be saying, look above your heads, look at the bombs that are coming. This is what the Western world are doing to you. They'll be indoctrinating the kids.
Yeah, and we're bringing them in here now as well to this country.
I know, and this is what we're doing. And these kids won't know any better because what they will just simply see is their home being destroyed.
Well, we pay for that. When David Lammy reinstalled their funding to UNRWA, they're the ones that pay for these textbooks and this teaching to go on.
Oh, we funded the terrorism.
I mean, another suggestion, although it would be Sadiq Khan, but unfortunately he wants to run for a 4th term as London mayor. And not only that, I read today that he's probably going to chuck his hat into running the leader prime ministerial race. What do you think about that? Him running for a 4th mayor term and possibly PM.
I'd rather keep him in as a mayor than a prime minister. Let me make that clear. You know, but I think he has been the most disastrous mayor that the City of London or London has ever had. I think he's an absolute disaster, and his arrogance and snobbishness. I mean, I watched the mayor's questions and stuff, and when he's scrutinised by the assembly members, and his arrogance and lack of
reform, what's her name? The reform lady who was very rude to.
Taylor Cunningham.
Yeah, he's very rude to. She asked him about the grooming gangs. He goes, "What do you mean? What does grooming gangs mean?" Like, you know, acting like he doesn't know, and then it's come out that there's loads of stuff going on, and. He's people saying he's sexist towards women in the chamber, and the deputy mayor, she's even more useless than him. You see?
I know. Well, yeah, we've seen that video that's gone viral over the weekend about what she said. I mean, they can't answer a simple question. They've got no new ideas. He's had 3 terms, and statistically, the city and London is getting worse. It's not getting better. How they can credibly put him up for a 4th term is beyond me.
But he wins, doesn't he?
Yeah, but the big advantage with Sadiq Khan, this is the bit that people forget. If you are a bad leader in these positions, you actually get more votes. The reason is because, as an example, Sadiq Khan has 85 press officers working for him. So given that there are 5 media outlets specifically covering London, they've got all sorts of things for these people to do. So what happens is the worse London gets, the more Sadiq Khan's machine is able to blame other people for it. Ergo, it's good for it's a perfect job for Sadiq. Sadiq couldn't run a bath. That is the truth of the matter. But because Sadiq has 2 things in spades. Number 1, total incompetence in terms of executive office. That's been demonstrated multiple times. But secondly, he also has an ability to blame other people. And of course, thirdly, he's got that full office of press officers to help him. Therefore, the worse Sadiq gets, the more electable he'll become.
Yeah, and when you've got an army of comms teams that are paid by the taxpayer to spin every disaster you create, it makes life a lot easier, right? You know, I'm sure we'd all love those. And he picks and chooses his scrutiny. He picks and chooses the interviews that he does. I'm sure he's
never been on here.
He's never been on here. No, I bet he hasn't, because he would be scrutinised and he wouldn't know what to do. He goes on James O'Brien on LBC, the most left-leaning biased presenter there is on national radio, you know, and he doesn't go out of his comfort zone. But as you say, when he's got so many press officers and so many people working to spin his messaging and to spin his story. It doesn't matter if he has a bad day in his office because he's got 85 people to try and get him out of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now let's talk swans. Farage saying that migrants eat swans. I've seen the footage. They do eat swans, some of them. And to be honest, if that's, you know, in the old days here, we'd go out and eat swans. It was quite a gourmet meal. So it's not disparaging, really. They see wildlife and they go yum yum. You know, I mean,
yum yum. Wasn't that what?
Oh, that's what Mandelson
said about Jeffrey Epstein's island.
Another one of Blair's failures, but. You know, all these left claiming, oh, you know, how dare you say they ate swans? They're trying to say they're all just the same as us. Obviously they're not. It's different cultures, and this goes against their whole narrative. But, you know, it just shows you.
Look, in countries where these migrants come from, people hunt.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Listen, we had it literally in Portsmouth. We got the Migrant Hotel at Royal Beach Hotel in Portsmouth, and we had it there not with a swan, but with the carps. They were literally taking the fish out of the ponds at the lake and eating them raw there's videos of it.
Well, they didn't even cook them.
No, it was literally videoed. It was the most crazy bit of footage we've ever watched. I mean, there was footage of them taking a goose from.
I saw that in a lift, and a bloke in the lift going, "What are you doing with that goose?" And they went, "Oh, well, we're just going to put it in the pot and that." And like we say, I mean, it is sort of that just shows we are totally different cultures.
But also, if you turn around and go, it's racist to say that Africans eat bushmeat, then you're just out of your mind, because bushmeat is incredibly popular. The outbreaks of Ebola are caused by bushmeat. I mean, remember, when the Chinese government was trying to disguise its release from the Wuhan lab, it claimed that bushmeat sold at the Wuhan fish market was the reason for the outbreak of COVID.
Yeah, listen, and this is the problem. It's culture, right? Because we know in China that they eat dog meat, which completely and utterly repulses me. But in their society, in their culture, that's something that's been accepted. But this is where cultures clash, right? And this is where you do get community frictions, because when you bring that culture into this country, and it's a culture that our communities are not comfortable with or used to, and we see that, to us, it's shocking, absolutely shocking and gut-wrenching most of the times, and it causes emotive reactions. And this is where cultures clash, and why it's very difficult to integrate if they're not willing to integrate and learn the ways that our culture operates.
And you see Emily Mateless going, Farage is lying. Well, no, you're lying, actually, Emily Mateless. And all you have to do is a bit of Google and you find loads of pictures of them. We're walking with these swans. The swans have never been hunted. They're going, you know, they're just going with them, thinking, what's going on here?
But it's also...
chuck us a bit of bread.
But it's precisely the same. It's precisely the same as in France. Since they began virtually unlimited immigration from Algeria, the number of churches that have spontaneously combusted has gone through the roof. Now, how much evidence is there that migrants from the Islamic world are burning down churches in France? Actually, there's very limited evidence, so let's be fair. However, it's amazing that all of these fires happened at the same time. There's that particular village where there are 2 migrant hotels, and it used to have a lake in the middle with lots of swans. All the swans have disappeared, and the question is, where have they gone? Now, they survived for 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 years on that lake. It probably is a bit newer than that, but in this historic village. And then suddenly 2 migrant hotels turn up and it disappears completely. Well, I mean, you know, if that happened once, you could say it was disease. When it happens in 50 or 60 cases, it's pretty obvious what's taken place.
Absolutely. And, you know, this is the thing, is that when you provide evidence on social media, or you do on your news channels or radio TV shows, you're challenged. Nigel Farage's challenge. He's stating facts. This is not subjective. It's not up for debate. It's not an opinion. This is a fact. He stated a fact. And all of a sudden, the left-wing agenda or media jumps on him as though he's some Donald Trump. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats.
Yeah, but they were eating the dogs and cats.
And by the way, the Chinese restaurant... The Chinese restaurant that was recently caught with dog meat in its fridge had a 5-star hygiene rating. And let me tell you why that was. Because we think that we assume that they've got the dog meat in the fridge because they're dirty whatevers who want to cut corners. Actually, they just eat dog.
It was
right?
very hygienic dog meat.
So the reality is, if you go into that restaurant as a Westerner and order chicken, you get chicken or lamb or beef or whatever. But as a Chinese person, if you go in and order dog, they will serve you dog.
Labrador fried rice.
We don't think of it in those terms. Yeah. But that's actually what's happening.
It's just cultural, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It is cultural.
But that proves the left are talking gibberish when they say we're all the same, because it's not just about animals, it's about how you treat women, how you treat gay people, and all those kind of things. They try and say we're all the same.
You're completely correct. And this is what always blows my mind, because the protesters, the Stand Up to Racism protests, and I've had conversations with many of them, and when they're saying, you know, refugees are welcome here, they're the same people that protest for, like, trans rights. And I think to myself, those two things clash entirely.
Entirely.
Absolutely.
Well, look at the Greta Thunberg boat. They fell out, the Islamists, because there were lesbians and gays on the boat, and suddenly they realise they don't really, it's like oil and water.
Yeah, but I think it's just this whole left-wing virtue signalling, whatever's the most fashionable thing to protest against at
it's
that
the new climate change.
No, I think it's actually, there's just an assumption that liberal democracy, freedom of speech will always exist. I mean, I said this last night, so apologies for being repetitious. I was reading back all the things that were said about Ali Khamenei when he flew to Iran, when the Shah of Iran fell, and all these lefties were going, now that Islam has been liberated in Iran, it'll all be fine. You can't complain, this guy's an extremist. He'll work with the left. And as Asher said, all he did was shot them all and then just brought in a horrendous regime, which, let's be clear, it and its proxies have caused mayhem in the world. But of course, the lefties that advocated for the Ayatollah Khomeini, all the same people, although, you know, a different generation, all the same people who are out on the Gaza protests, if Gaza was allowed to become a rogue terrorist state, you know, they'd all just say, hey ho, never mind, wasn't our fault, exactly as they did with Iran.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what they do. They just change and they pick and choose what they're passionate about. And if you challenge them on something and you challenge them with logic,
you can't
they just deflect. They just say you're racist. They don't have an argument.
Yeah, because they haven't got one. Anyway, that's George Madrick. Thanks, George. Reform UK leader for Portsmouth City Council. That was brilliant. We're going to go through the papers after the breaky, but give us a ring because we're going to do all your calls after that. 03444991000. It's Andre and Ash on Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Right, I've just got to say to you, I'm sorry to do this, but throughout this entire show, they've left sweets up at reception.
They've also left fruit.
No, not for fruit.
Yeah. Well, it is fruity flavoured, isn't it? It's a banana flavour.
Oh, banana flavoured sweets are one of your five a day.
Yeah, it is. That's one. They do another one. It's two.
Right, you do the calls.
You do the next
No, you do the next bit.
No, I want you to do it.
All right, Grace in London.
No, it's all right. No, are we going to do the papers or calls?
No, we're going to do some calls.
All right, let's go, Grace. Yeah, Grace.
Hi. The original spitting image was slightly before my time.
Fluck and Law, and that's not me being rude, that's who did it, Fluck and Law. And it was too expensive to do like that because it cost a fortune, those rubber puppets.
Oh, sorry, I was confused for a moment.
I'm sure you were.
I saw some VHS cassettes back in the day which had pictures of spitting image characters on the front when I was a small child, and I was so disturbed. So I've always hated spitting image, just from being a small child and seeing those hideous puppets. And it's
but it used to be a massive show.
Oh, can we play any spitting image tonight? Are we able to do it, or we have to do it next week?
Yeah, they sold their puppets, and there was one of the in the Epstein case, wasn't there, where Prince Andrew actually bought his own puppet, and they were allegedly grabbed a woman's breast with his hand, although obviously that was
my favourite.
By the way, the Times, Prince Andrew and his massages on Epstein's private jet. You used to be able to get massages on Virgin Airways, but I don't think it's the same.
My
favourite
happy ending.
A happy landing.
My favourite was when they used to sell the spitting image puppets at the end of the series. They used to auction them for charity.
Yeah. And
they always used to have a reserve of like £1,000 on each puppet, except they had a maximum price on Michael Winner of £5. Right? So what used to happen was everyone who wanted the Michael Winner puppet for £5 would put in, and they'd just draw one out of a hat. So it would always go, Margaret Thatcher's gone for £2,500. Norman Lamont has gone for £2,000. Neil Kinnock's gone for £1,900. However, Michael Winner only got a £5.
Apparently, the rubber it perished a bit after a few years. Went a bit schmutzig. Anyway, Grace, what do you want to say? Carry on with your horror story about spitting image.
Yeah, I think obviously this was grotesquely in bad taste. I'm guessing that it's more an attempt to poke fun at Donald Trump than it is at Charlie Kirk himself.
But it's mocking the death of a man and his family's reaction to it. It's disgusting.
Well, yeah, it feels to me like it's mocking Trump, but I also think it's unnecessary and not helpful. And I think that it's just such a horrific thing that's happened that it's just not in any way sensible or respectful or decent. And if you care about the tragedy enough, then you wouldn't have made this.
Especially with the reaction from the left and the pushback on it, and they've sort of doubled down on it. I mean, did you ever follow Charlie Kirk? Did you know his work? Because you're from that sort of sector.
I hadn't been... What do you mean, that sort of sector?
Well, you're Christian, aren't you? He had a lot of Christian values, and you're have a lot
from that sort of sector.
The Christian values sector is what I like to call it.
I had not been following him closely because there's too much to keep up with, frankly.
Yeah.
I had a look at some of his Twitter feed whilst he was in hospital, and it seemed to be largely politics. I've seen some clips since of him sharing the actual gospel, which is fantastic. And I would urge people not to muddle politics and the gospel. I'm not saying that he did that, but I
But isn't there a link? I mean, you know, like a man and a woman and having kids and family values is Christianity, isn't it?
No. The gospel is that Jesus died in our place, taking our sin upon himself. And he rose, and I know that sounds completely nuts, but there's a lot you could read that points out why we can conclude it to be true, and I was convinced, although I'm not generally a spiritual person instinctively, I came to conclude that it actually happened. And so the gospel is that Jesus took the punishment we deserve. Now, we also believe that God has given guidance about relationships, and God has given guidance about caring for others and things like that, but the gospel itself is this message that Jesus has taken our punishment if we choose to repent and turn to him. And so that's not the same as gun laws or even small c conservative ideas about marriage and the family, although I think those are very important. I think we need to not get it all too muddled up because the gospel is not really a left or right thing. And I think if we focus too much on left and right tribes, we could miss out on this message that Jesus has of offering us salvation, which isn't really...
Yeah, but there is a slight problem with that, in that the left still exists, but left-wing parties are principally anti-Christian, pro-abortion,
atheist.
And
the right are conservatives, and they want to conserve the religious family.
So I don't think there's any dispute. I mean, you know, does anyone who is an old-style left-wing trade unionist support the Labour Party anymore?
I'm wondering how you're defining the left exactly.
Well, no, look, if you are somebody who believes in greater state intervention in the economy, you are not necessarily a Labour Party supporter. Labour Party supporters now are people who believe in uncontrolled immigration, are people who believe in the middle-class rights agenda, who believe in things like altering education to talk about white privilege.
They're like communists, and communists didn't like religion.
I'm not sure that all people I mean, I'm not a Labour Party member or anything. I quit when I was angry with Jeremy Corbyn for tweeting in support of the buffer zone around our local abortion clinic. But I think that everyone's got a variety of different views.
Yeah, but the centre-left is now considered far-right by the left.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
Right. So then how are you? Like,
no, I'm saying if you go back and you talk about left versus right from the 1970s, that is not the situation anymore. The political parties who are traditionally left-wing are, as an example, they're not worried about left-wing economics. They're much more concerned about transsexual rights. They're much more concerned about Gaza. They're much more concerned about, say, the European Convention on Human Rights being upheld, support for the United Nations, defence of the World Health Organisation, climate change. Then, I mean, no Labour politician now genuinely supports the British steel industry.
I mean, I'm so aware that everyone's views are so varied and nuanced. I would agree with you that it's really a terrible tragedy that it would seem that quite a lot of people put things like redefining what a woman is ahead of dealing with global poverty, for example. And I am just,
but they do.
When I spend time on left-wing pages online, I feel so frustrated thinking, why aren't these people talking about the fact that there are some human beings who don't have clean water yet? Why do they only care about one place in the world where they're suffering? Because I think we should care about Gaza, but we should also
we know why that
about
is.
Other places. So I see what you're saying, but I guess I would say that from a Christian perspective, aside from how we label other people, whether we label other people left or right, we ourselves can make a decision about Jesus and the gospel, and that in itself transcends the complexity of political labels. And as you pointed out, for example, by talking about the Lib Dems, or some of the Lib Dems, singing against Tony Blair, clearly it's not the case that everyone is just on the left or on the right, because there's this really complicated,
that's disappeared a bit, hasn't it?
Messy spectrum. I mean, if you go all the way
It's good
back,
and evil now. There's two sides now. It's basically good and evil. Anyway, thanks, Grace. Tarquin.
No, let's go to a break.
Good idea.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yes, this is Talk, and this is Andre Walker and Asher Gould. Let's go to Tarquin in London.
Tarky.
Hey, Ash, how you doing, mate?
Right,
just quickly, Ash, what do you think James Whale, the fantastic, would have made of this ID announcement, Ash? What do you reckon?
He'd have been keen. No,
I don't know. No, I don't know. It's a good question, actually. I don't know because he was. I don't know really. I think he would have been against it, but then you don't know, do you? I mean, he was a Remainer and then he was Brexit. He changed his mind. He used to. I'd probably have to instruct him on what to say.
Would you?
Shut up, Ash.
Yeah, and then he'd say that.
Well, I knew he was very. No, I know he was very close to Nigel towards the end, obviously, and then of course Nigel came out really strongly today, as you will have heard, saying that this is almost like the first thing. Hopefully, he's going to put in the Great Repeal Act when.
Oh, good, because I was wondering whether they should come. They should come out and say that. Yeah.
Yeah, they've already done that. Right. Okay. To the point I was saying.
Hey, by the way, there is one thing, Tarquin, that's quite funny. You know how they say there's no migrant invasion? We've only ever implemented ID cards twice, and they were both in times of war. So.
And we are in a sort of war at the moment, aren't we? A sort of invasion, anyway.
Yeah, we are. So it proves there's an invasion.
Yes. Here's a bit of good news. If there is a bit of good news, go onto YouTube either now or afterwards, guys, and have a look up a really brilliant barrister. He's on the par with Stephen Barrett.
Oh, the bald barrister. I love him. Yeah, I love his work. Yeah.
Barrister. He's got a video he's just put out this evening called "Why ID Cards May Be Unlawful." Now, that's the key.
No, don't go now.
Oh, yeah, don't go now.
Talk
a lot so I can open this packet of sweets.
Yeah, now what it basically, let me just give you a quick précis on what it says. Basically, there is existing legislation in place that could well scupper this ridiculous dystopian thing. One of them is Article 8 of the European Convention on Human Rights, which is about the right to privacy we all have.
Yeah, but they've got the right to freedom of expression, but they overrule that. When they want to, they overrule the international law, and when they want to overrule our law, they use the international law.
Indeed. And secondly, the actual Data Protection Act, there are all sorts of different aspects of the data.
Yeah, but their new statute will cover all that. It'll say it's not covered with that.
What will happen,
Ash?
And I can tell the black belt barrister that he's wrong, because the black belt barrister is drinking the Kool-Aid of all of these guys in the Inns of Court who believe that the European Convention on Human Rights is a British constitution, de facto. Look, the reality is, any new piece of legislation supersedes any old piece of legislation.
Yeah. It's a statute, isn't it? Yeah.
Which is precisely why, when people would go, in the Magna Carta, we were against this, it's just been superseded. So what they'll do is they'll keep all of the elements of the European Convention on Human Rights that helps them.
Yeah.
And the reason I make that point, Tarquin, is this, because we were continually told, you have to support the rights of the bad people, because that defends the rights of good people. Look, my right to family life, my right to free assembly, my right to freedom of speech, my right to free association, all of those were abolished during COVID. Right now, could you find a court that was going to let you out of house arrest during COVID? No, you couldn't, because nobody at the Inns of Court disagreed with it.
That's absolutely right. Actually, I didn't even think about that, but you're right. I was just hope amongst hopes that existing data protection, in other words, all the private data that you've got on, your transactions you've made on your back, that they can't just sort of ride roughshod over that and say,
they can do what they want in Parliament. They just call it a law, a statute, and that overrides any they'll just say this now overrides it. That's sovereignty, and that's what they should be doing about the ECHR and all these other supranational.
Well, which was exactly the problem with the Fixed Term Parliament Act. They brought in the Fixed Term Parliament Act to say that you need the 2/3 majority in order to hold a general election, but of course, you only needed a simple majority to repeal that law and have a general and give the power back to the Prime Minister to hold a general election, which is precisely what the Conservatives did when the Liberal Democrats lost office.
But surely this should be a referendum matter, not that they'll ever do that, because they know what would happen. But this is a referendum matter for the population.
It is, but of course, can you imagine Starmer doing that? He's got no scruples at all, has he?
No, he's an authoritarian.
Yeah. So, I mean, where do you think it leaves, guys? Do you think this thing's going to get through in the fall?
I don't think it will, because I think there'll be such a big reaction. We've already got well over, I think, 1.5 million signatures on the petition.
Yeah.
I just think it'll...
I've forgotten to sign it. I'm going to sign it now.
And we haven't even signed it yet. But, I mean, I think it will get too hot. They've tried it before and it's just had no chance. And there's a lot of politicians saying... it's got no chance of getting in, and maybe the bald barrister is right. He's a clever man. He's a very good man. I like his channel. Yeah.
It is. And do you think JD Vance and DJT will, if they get wind of this, they're trying to shove through, whether they'll have any leverage in getting us to back?
Well, I think they should, because I mean, he is the leader of the free world. He's basically our president as well. Anyway, thanks, Tarky. Let's speak to Michelle in London, who wants to talk about swans. What's your favourite recipe, Michelle?
Well, it's not swans.
Yeah. Go on, Michelle.
Oh, right, about the swans.
Yeah, man.
I heard you were talking about the swans the other day.
Earwigging, were you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, telly, anyway, you was going on about the swans and about them being caught, the immigrants, getting. They're doing it opposite my park. I've got Burgess Park right in front of me, a big pond, big lake.
Have you seen them?
And yeah, I've seen them over there. I've heard them scream, the ducks screaming. They were actually caught by a couple of fishermen, you know, in them bow and arrow things. Yeah,
what, a bow and arrow?
Yeah. You know what are they called, those big things that they
crossbow?
fire? Yes, that's it.
So where in London is this you've seen? Where have you seen this?
Park, Old Kent Road.
The Old Kent Road, right?
Old Kent Road, Burgess Park. It's a boating lake. They've got fishermen over there. 2 fishermen ended up grabbing them. We wondered why the population of the ducks and the swans was going down. Well, that's why.
I mean, you can understand it's their, you know, culture, but obviously you don't do that here, and this is why it shows why cultures aren't sort of, you can't really mix them up, because that's not the only thing that's different, you know, how you might treat women, the way you look at, you know.
They're camping. We've got a lot of parks around here, and what they're doing is they're going at the back of their parks, they're putting their tents up, and that's where they're staying. So whereas before you could have walked through there and
it's basically like a takeaway, isn't it? I fancy a bit of swan.
You cannot do that. It's really. I'll tell you what. I'm 55. I've lived all my life in this area. No, not my birthday, but I've lived all my life, and I've never ever been worried about going out, Mandy. I mean, it's.
We're hearing that from everyone. Have you had any actual direct experience of anything of this, or have you just?
Yeah, but they approach you.
What do they do when they come up to you, Michelle?
They say, oh, like help for money, or you know, like if you've got some money.
But do they actually approach you know with other for other reasons? Do they ever go, all right, you know, darling, or whatever?
No, not so much, because I'm normally out with somebody that's with me.
Yeah,
my partner.
Also, without being funny, and also without being funny, Michelle, and I'm not being rude. These guys
He's about to be rude.
No, these guys are in their early 20s, and if you're in your mid 50s.
I'm 55, exactly. I'm 55 years old, and they're coming up on the cash machines as well. You got them on the cash machines. We had it on Tesco's the other today. Was it? Yeah, no, yesterday, as a matter of fact, getting some money out. And he said, oh, that machine's not working, it's got cash. So I've gone to the other one, and as I've put my PIN number in, I've done it wrong as it goes, luckily enough. He's put his hand over, you know, like they do to try and get the money. Yeah, and these are migrants. These are.
And what happened then when he did that?
Well, I said, you can imagine, I pushed my elbow back. I said, what are you doing? You know, I had to go.
So you're like quite a tough woman, aren't you? But I mean, other people.
He ran down the road, and apparently I wasn't the first one. Apparently he'd been going around the area, because later on that evening my fella saw him getting nicked.
And did you notify the authorities?
Yeah, but
if he gets
not that anything would happen.
If he gets arrested, then I mean, it was like that video,
isn't it?
It was like that video from Sheffield where they stopped this bloke who'd groped a woman. He dry humped her without being too graphic, and. When the police arrived and they went, oh, we know who that is. He's done it loads of times.
I saw that to a copper on the Notting Hill Carnival. That was happening to her. Unbelievable. A couple of years ago.
Same thing happened to my girlfriend, because he done it to an old lady in the evening, and that's when he got caught. He ran into Tesco's and the security kept him there until the police got there.
That's unusual.
Yeah, exactly. But you locked yourself in the toilet, so they just locked the doors. You know, and then when the police got there, he was in the back of the car. My fella went over there to get some coffee and that, and he said to the police officer, he said, look, the same thing happened to my girlfriend this morning.
So have you got kids, Michelle?
Yeah, they're grown up.
So they must be, what, in their 20s or 30s?
Yeah, it's frightening.
And where are they, in the Old Kent Road area?
Yeah, Old Kent Road.
So how are they finding life?
Well, it's the same. It's quite frightening. I'm frightened for my grandkids.
And what about work-wise? Are they able to work? And
yeah, but it's the same thing. It's the same thing going to work, going out in the evening and that. I'm more worried. I never ever used to be worried about that ever.
Well, everyone
Even
is.
me going out, just nipping over the road.
Women can't go out on their own. And by the way, if you're a tourist, I wouldn't come here. It's dangerous. And also now they scour your Twitter and you'll be arrested if you come from America and you said anything that's illegal here. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, and if you say anything or anything to some people before, it's not so much now, because now since we've had that thing up with Tommy Robinson up at the thingy, the racism thing's come right down. People don't care anymore. But before, you couldn't even say anything, because otherwise you were classed as a racist.
No, that's right. So basically, your community would be terrorised by a criminal from abroad, and if you said, "My God, my community's being terrorised by a criminal from abroad," they'd arrest you for being nasty about criminals.
But the shoe's going on the other foot.
Yep, that's right. Yep.
Thanks, Michelle. Let's go to Heather in Girvan.
This whole government, what they don't realise that our troops have served two wars, First World War and Second World War, to defend our country, to defend our freedom of rights of freedom of speech, freedom to live how we want to live. And this ungrateful government has been totally ungrateful to our troops. And for this...
Who threw their lives on the line, and a lot of them didn't come back. A lot of them were severely disabled for this shower to come in and do this.
Sacrificed their lives for our country. Don't they freaking realise it? And now we've got this digital bleeding...
Sorry, I said anything.
ID. I mean, this is taking away our freedom in our own country. Our bleeding ancestors are turning in their graves right now for what this government is doing to our country. They're making our country even more dangerous.
Another minute,
than
please.
what it is.
We've got the news. Just do another 40 seconds, please, Heather. Heather?
Yeah?
We've got the news in about 40 seconds, so just keep going a little bit.
And...
Keep going.
This government is totally dangerous, and they are... Do you know what this government is? A risk to our security of our country, and they need to be brought, get out of office.
30.
This government needs to leave. This country needs to leave. Whatever they need to do. Do you know one thing about
20.
that protest of Unite the Kingdom? Well, the next time when they have it,
10.
make sure it's in the Palace of Westminster and have a sitting in the Palace of Westminster.
Thank you, that's Heather. She'll gonna...
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yeah. So Lewis Hamilton's dog's in a coma.
Is it?
Why?
I'd missed that. What happened?
Oh, he's taken some time off work because his dog's in a coma.
Breaking news.
Breaking news. Breaking news. I'll tell you what makes me laugh about Lewis Hamilton. Lewis Hamilton goes on about slavery when he worked for Mercedes, right? One of the only companies in Europe that still exists that has benefited from slavery, right?
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Well, quite a lot of them, weren't there? BMW, they were all
IG Farben.
Heather, your views on Lewis Hamilton's dog in a coma, please.
He is pathetic, he is.
Who, Lewis Hamilton? He's a good driver, though, isn't he? He's an excellent driver.
He's totally pathetic. Well, I was also saying about Unite the Kingdom. What they need to do is have a big, huge demonstration on a Wednesday when it's PMQ question time, and they need to storm into the Palace of Westminster and hold those MPs.
Well, we don't condone that, and also Wednesday's a work day. You know, we work on the right.
Sorry, when you say storm into Westminster, presumably you're saying green card. And do agree with me, Heather. Green card your MP, which is the legal mechanism by which you can lobby them going into Parliament. Is that what you mean, Heather?
Yeah, but the people need to storm into the...
No, they're walking in a nice go through security. By the way, they've put new barriers on all around the outside of Parliament.
Right, can I just be very clear on going into Parliament?
Don't storm Parliament.
Right, look, it's very, very easy. You can go to the gates of Parliament, go to Cromwell Gate and say, I would like to green card my MP during a sitting day, any sitting day, and they're not back for a couple of weeks now, but during any sitting day, you can walk in and demand to see your Member of Parliament and talk about anything. Now, normally what you would do is email them the day before, because if they're not in the chamber, they won't find them, the doorkeepers. But you don't have to storm into Parliament. You don't have to shout anything. You don't have to let anything off. You don't have to. You can literally just walk up and meet them. And if they are available, they'll come and talk to you. That is a much better way of doing it.
Are you going to do that, Heather?
Oh, no. We need a People's Revolution Army.
No, Heather, we've got you out of a big thing there. Right, I don't mean to say. Go on, Heather. Go on.
All those politicians hostage.
Right. Okay, right. So just to be clear, everyone, I helped her. You heard me.
Do not storm Parliament, whatever you do. Peaceful process.
She said we should storm Parliament. I went, by which you mean legitimately getting a green card.
She didn't mean that, did she?
She didn't mean that.
Hertfordshire Bob. Robert in Hertfordshire.
Hearty B doesn't come for free. He's a real lady.
All right, guys.
All right, Bob.
Hearty Bob. Hearty B.
It's Hertfordshire Bob here.
Hearty B doesn't come for free. He's a real lady.
You're confusing him.
Regarding the case of the Muslim who was cleared more or less for attacking.
Well, he didn't get any prison time, did he? Slashing it with a knife at a man. Unbelievable.
Have you seen the footage?
Yeah. I think we've got the footage, haven't we? Well, I mean, we're slightly broadsiding the video editor, but if he can find it, he'll show it.
Yeah, basically, this guy, he was told he's got exemplary character, even though he said he was going to kill him and slashed at him with a knife. I think he actually cut him. The guy that actually burnt the book got remanded, and that guy got bailed and no prison time for slashing at a man with a knife.
Look, that was premeditated because he went back into where he came out of and got the knife. So he's already thought about it.
I hope they're appealing that sentence.
Good point, because premeditation doesn't have to be days; it can be minutes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but
it can be anything.
The most worrying thing, that judge has set the seeds for Armageddon in this country. Because I'll tell you.
Well, what multiple judges have said is if somebody is offensive to Islam, you have the right. So you don't have the right to commit violence, but the courts will look on you very favourably if the reason for your violence is that you were offended by Islamic blasphemy.
And they'll even use it against the other person, saying, well, you must have done something wrong because a guy was coming at you with a knife, which is what the judge in the other case said.
Yeah, let's just remind ourselves of that case. So we've never heard of an aggravating...
You can see it on screen.
We've never heard of an aggravating factor being that you were a victim of crime. So what they've said to this guy burnt a Quran outside the Turkish consulate, he said, if it hadn't been, the fact that you were stabbed after doing this proves how bad it was, therefore you should get a stiffer sentence. I mean, that
encourages other people.
Madness.
Yeah.
Madness.
And bad law.
Why don't we go full screen on that video, by the way?
Yeah, let's have a look at this. And by the way, the delivery driver tripped him up. He should have been arrested for attempted murder as well. Here we go, spat on him. And there's the delivery or Uber Eats driver kicking him on the floor, probably not registered.
Whoa.
And this is just a random driver that's gone past and is joining in the attempted murder, which I would say he wasn't charged with all what he could have been charged with. That was a letter from Robert Jenrick, who's going to raise it in the House of Commons when he comes back. But this sentence should be reviewed.
But what sort of message is this sending out? So
exactly what Andre said.
Well,
it's sending the message, a message that we've confirmed multiple times, that in Britain Islamic blasphemy is an offence, and where the authorities cannot step in, you will not be allowed to step in yourself. But what you will have.
Sorry, choking on his reflection.
Sorry, I don't accept Islam as a religion. It's just an ideology. So how can I be blasphemous in something that I don't believe in?
Well, no, you are required. No. Let's just be clear. You are required to be religiously sensitive to Islam, whether you agree with it or not, and that is the very point we're making.
And you won't be able to talk about this if these Islamophobia laws come in.
Oh, and by the way, if you the definition of Islamophobia, which is supported quite widely, including by the Home Secretary, will include, if you talk about grooming gangs having any link to Islamic immigration, that will be illegal.
Actually, I think that everybody's slagging Starmer off, but I think the left behind him have been very, very clever since they took over, and I'll tell you for why. First of all, they took away our right to complain.
Yes.
The second thing is, you go on Facebook now. I used to love going on Facebook and having a rant. I can't do that now.
No.
Facebook's just full up of advertisements now and silly dog falling over film.
But if you write anything bad on there, they'll come at your door, some of the police.
You can't. Yeah, you can't. And I've got a bit of form. So, I'm a million, but...
oh, yeah, you got a bit of form, have you?
What have you got form for, then?
Yeah, what you got form for?
I'm sorry, I ain't going to tell you that, am I?
Come on, tell us.
Yeah. Years ago, I was framed. I was framed. Right?
That's what they all say.
Yeah, let's hear him out. What were you framed for? A bank robbery?
No, not as. No, I'm not going to say.
Go on, give us a little clue. Give us a little clue, a hint.
Well, I had a Koran and I got a box of matches. Right,
no, now you're joking.
Yeah, so, put it this way. What would you think, both of you are intelligent guys, what do you think would happen tomorrow if there was another atrocity like there was in Southall? There won't be a few shop windows smashed. There will be Armageddon.
Well, we can't condone that, but yeah, you're right. It's ready to spark up, isn't it?
I think the bigger risk is that Iranian Secret Service have already planted a terrorist attack, and I personally believe, and I'm not an expert on terrorism at all, but I personally believe that what they've done, Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, Iran, whatever you want to call them, it's all the same thing. What they've done is they have sent some of their operatives into the country via the small boats, and what they'll say is, at a specified time, on a specified date, get your knife out and launch a coordinated attack, and I believe that will happen.
Well, the IRGC is not a proscribed organisation here, where it is around the world. I mean, this is the IRGC we're talking about. This is the people who are doing these atrocities in Iran. During the revolution,
Iranian Republican Guard.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, in the revolution, they used child soldiers, but when they were under 12, they were too young to fight, so they used to run them across minefields to clear the mines. There was tens of thousands of children blown up in mines. They give them a little necklace with I think a little Quran or something on it, and said, "Don't worry, you're going to go to heaven." This is what they do, and this is the people who we aren't prescribing as a terror group, where every other country pretty much has, including in the Middle East.
I've heard you and Andre say a couple of times that we're heading, for civil war. What I'm going to ask you is, who would the two sides be? Would it be us and the Muslims?
Well, that's the thing, isn't it?
Left and the right?
That's my theory, you see. Why are they bringing in loads of people? So that they'll be... Because it would have been a homogenous, population against the government. Not that I'm condoning that, but now they'll split the sides and they can just stand back while...
I think the government and the police will back the Islamists, won't they?
Well, they have
That would be my expectation.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm a little bit
what they'd say is, they'd say there is no problem whatsoever. There are a bunch of football hooligans attempting to subvert the country. They wouldn't call up the Islamists, but presumably what would happen is, I would assume this: Iran has already plotted a terror attack in the UK. When that attack happens, there'll be widespread dissent. The government will crack down on that dissent and double down on immigration from the Islamic world, and the UK will collapse. That would be my assumption of what the plan would be in Tehran. I'm not saying it's going to work, but that would be
we already saw an SAS raid, didn't we, on a house here, so they're obviously taking it very seriously, and they'll be worried about anything like that causing a spark. Thanks there, Hertfordshire Bob. Let's go quickly to Cindy, who's in Pigeon. Not in our Pigeon, she's in Pigeon, Michigan.
Hey, guys. I want to talk about ID cards.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry to say this, but what is happening to your country? What,
Well, Donald Trump's been
Well, it's just weird. Keir Starmer can sit there in front of my president and lie about free speech. Oh, we cherish free speech. That's not true.
I'm very proud of our history of free speech.
Somebody should have screamed, liar!
Yeah, the Oval Office, like they did it with Zelensky. Don't come and lie in the Oval Office to the president.
My understanding is that J.D. Vance told Keir Starmer that if he lies in the Oval Office again, he'll get Zelensky'd.
They roughed him up in the back.
I hope so. And I just think that the government wants to know too much of what you're doing, and that's dangerous.
What's going on in America now? I always like to ask you, is it getting better and better? I mean, Michigan's a bit dodgy, isn't it, with your senator?
I live in our governor is Democratic. So what's happening here is I live in a very peaceful, really Trump kind of area.
Yeah.
So it's fine here. But if you go north, a couple of hours, you get Flint. Yeah. And then go 2 more hours, you get Detroit. So that's dodgy.
But I want to go to Detroit because I want to go to that place where they film hardcore porn. The TV show.
That's not surprising.
Sorry, there's a TV show about porn.
Oh, yeah, I know that one. Yeah, that's good with the father and the son and the grandpa. What about Minnesota? That's now
no. The one with the son, the granddad. No, that's called porn stars.
I'm getting all the porn shows mixed up.
Hardcore porn is American Jewelry and Loan, which is on the 8 Mile Road, where they... Right. Can we just forget we...
But Minnesota now apparently is not an American state. Apparently it's a state for Somalia now, with their senator.
What?
They've got it. Yeah, and he basically made a speech about it. You know, this is great for Somalia.
God.
The money will be filtered out, and that's where it's going.
Changes are happening, and they're doing it without our permission.
Yeah, but you've got Trump.
That really pisses me off. It really does. And it really pisses me off what's going on in your country. I don't like it.
No, it's horrendous.
I don't like it. And there should be demonstrations, like calling Keir Starmer a liar.
Yeah.
We
do that. They just ignore it. I mean, he didn't even go to the UN, Starmer, because he was scared of Trump, I think. I mean, it was Netanyahu who spoke there today. It was pretty amazing.
Yeah, I just feel like, I don't know. The government's getting too personal.
But you're coming to visit, aren't you? Are you scared now to visit? Because you might have tweeted something, you could get arrested.
Scared.
Well, you might get arrested. Look at Graham Linehan. He's an Irish citizen. He tweeted in America and he got arrested here by 5 armed police.
I know, right? That would be my luck. That would totally be my luck.
But would it put you off coming to visit here? Because, you could potentially...
I have a ticket and everything for November, but my parents, who are almost 80... they want to see me. So I had to choose. So I have to switch.
So you chose to come
over instead, because also.
So you've got a ticket, but you're not going to use it.
Oh no.
I'm going to ask to change it.
Oh right, okay. All right, well, thanks, Cindy. 0344499.
Normally, actually, for about 50 quid, you can change it as long as it's not more expensive, the ticket.
Well, that's it. All right, then, isn't it?
I'll tell you what we want to do now. Well, you can do the phone number. I want to do the Twitter thing.
Oh, yeah. 03444991000. Do the Twitter thing.
OK, so we have a rule now that we're going to read out people that follow us on Twitter. Yeah. So it's at Andre JP Walker and it's at Virtual Ash. Yeah, in fact, what we'll do is, why don't we both tweet, hey, why don't you follow us here? And we'll do that.
We'll just said it
I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll tweet.
Just follow us and we'll read your name out on national radio. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yes, this is Talk, and this is Andre Walker and Asher Gould. And I guess let's go to Paula in Halifax. Paula, you're on Talk.
Good evening, Andre. Good evening.
Morning, it's morning.
Well, whatever it is.
Well, it is.
I've been a bit naughty tonight,
What
you know.
done? What you been doing?
I've been having a bit of...
What? What's that? Are you drunk?
No!
What does that mean? I don't even know what she means.
It's toilet roll. Toilet roll.
What?
Ash. Toilet roll.
You've having toilet roll?
Yeah, up the nose.
Right, yeah. So what did you want to talk about? Have we entered another
Well,
realm?
I wanted to talk to Andre as well, because I really have been not very nice with him. Andre?
Have you phoned to apologise?
Yes.
He said he's apologised last week.
Right, okay, yeah, great, come on.
Don't be mean, Andre.
I'm not being mean, I'm just saying, fine, right? What do you want me to say? You come on my show talking about snorting toilet roll, right?
Listen.
Andrex is the best.
Don't start shouting.
Oh, here we go.
I'm
having my sweets.
This is third of the day.
No, look at that.
It's a great
Look at
fibre
that.
provider.
That's a disgrace, isn't it?
But what did you want to talk? What did you want to talk about? ID cards? What was it? Toilet roll?
No.
What?
I actually wanted to talk about.
What? Go on, say it.
Normally,
not Ash.
Most people talk more fast.
Yeah, Ash. Yeah. I wanted to speak about.
We're not talking. Right, can we just get her off now?
Yeah.
Sorry.
James in London. James.
Hello, fellas.
All right,
How
man.
are you?
We're all right, man. How are you doing, James? You all right?
I owe Andre an apology and all. Because last time I was on, my first time call, I sort of dug him out for being a special advisor.
You what?
Right?
Fine.
And I
Not a problem.
I see the heroics he done at that conservative American thing.
Yeah, the Republican dinner.
Right, so my deepest apologies. And now we've got a new telly. His hair's ginger like mine, so...
Oh, yeah, you want to change the settings because it's toned down a bit now, isn't it?
You've
got your colour on, your contrast too bright.
It's left. It's the only racism left in England is the...
So you like my removal of the protester?
Oh, that was
It
brilliant.
was nice, wasn't it? It was like that.
No, it wasn't. It was one arm. I couldn't...
Oh, was it one arm? All right, that's even more impressive.
I would have done it a bit more forceful. You was very polite.
But he didn't. You've got to use the reasonable force.
I didn't do it very forcefully. It was reasonable force. Let's just be clear, everyone. Reasonable force.
No, I said I would have done it more.
No, but you get arrested
But
for
we're
that.
just saying I didn't. Therefore, it's reasonable force.
That's would it?
Yeah.
Remember when you had longer hair?
Hey?
When you had longer hair?
You was younger.
When I had long... Yeah, I remember when I had long hair, yeah.
Do you remember?
He remembers many things about his life.
Yeah.
That's another subject. What did I ring you up for?
No idea.
I don't know, man.
Tell...
Same reason as Paula.
Let me tell you then. Let me tell you.
Yeah, go on then.
I rang you up about the London Mayor, Sadiq Khan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's just said he won't run for a fourth term.
Well, they just said he will run for a fourth term.
I thought he said he won't.
No, he said he will, and he's also apparently going to throw his hat in the ring to be Prime Minister. Imagine that.
But what I want to talk, he's decimated my culture. He goes on about all this multiculturalism. Sorry, I had a drink. Multiculturalism. He goes on what about my culture, my Cockney culture, my East End culture.
But that's disappeared, hasn't it, East End culture? When I think of the East End now, I think of Bengalis.
They'll move out to Essex and buy nice houses.
But James, if I think of Cockneys, if I think of the East End, I don't think of Cockneys, I think of Bangladeshis.
No. Not Copayang.
Where are you in London then, James? Are you still in the East End?
Of course I am.
What, where, what, Stepney or something?
They ain't getting rid of me. They ain't getting rid of me. Remember that film, The Last of the Mohicans?
Yeah.
I'm last of the Cockneys.
Excellent, man.
And is that true? Is there none of you left?
No. I used to work around Wentworth Street, Petticoat Market, Middlesex Street, Wentworth Street, down the Bowman Road. Yeah. My dad brought me up in these barrows and all that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Told me to go and do a day's work.
Yeah.
Dragged me to the pub. Yeah, that's where I learned to drink.
Yeah.
So that was my culture.
It's good education.
I will tell you something. I ran in the Port Soken by-election some time ago, which is Middlesex Street and the Guinness Estate. I forget what the Guinness Estate is called, but it's the Middlesex Street Estate and the Guinness Estate, and I got absolutely tonked. So that's the whole story. But I know that area very well.
There's no pie and mash shops anymore, are there? You know, there's no Tubby Isaacs.
There's a few. There's Kelly's Bethnal Green. There's two in Chris Street, isn't there?
Yeah, but it's like a gourmet product now. It costs a lot of money, like a pint of beer now, £8. A pie with an eel in it, you know, you're going to pay through the nose.
Where are you drinking in the East End? You don't pay £8 a beer in the East End.
No. Beautiful, man.
There's plenty of good pubs still left, but they're dying quickly.
They are.
Yeah.
As is the culture.
They're turning into mosques.
Well, the pubs aren't turning into mosques. The pubs are turning into Indian restaurants, and there's been an increase in mosques. Oh, there we are.
And luxury flats.
There's my video.
Oh, here he is. Here's Andre, if you're watching. If you're listening on the radio, here's Andre removing a protester from the Republican dinner in Windsor. What was he? What was he saying? Drill, drill, drill.
Hey, just give me a minute. I'm knackered.
And free speech is what you believe.
I'm nearly 50.
You respond to free speech by trying to kick me in the balls.
Hey, just give me a minute. I'm knackered.
And free speech is what you believe.
I'm nearly 50.
You respond to free speech by trying to kick me in the balls.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yes, this is Talk. And back to you, James. So it was quite difficult dragging him, but once we got him into the ante-room...
Tell you back on. I didn't know you was coming back.
Yeah, we're coming back because we had a little technical issue, so you can just carry on with just...
Technical issue that we weren't meant to mention, Ash.
Yeah, we weren't mentioning it.
It weren't a saying geezer saying text fault. He's a good op. You know what I mean? These things happen in life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and by the way, thank you to Hardcore Raver for pointing this out.
You know, go on. Sorry, Adrian, go on.
Adrian?
Go on,
Adrian!
Go on, Adrian.
Adrian! Hey, I was in my boxing film. Can I tell you about the boxing film?
Andre.
Who's that? It's another man.
Andre.
I was in a boxing film at the weekend.
Are you drunk? You played Gary Newbon. By the way, hello to Joy Allen, M.A. Duckworth, Alski 007, not Gary Newman, Kirsten Goldsmith, Daniel Graham, Mick, DJ, Tony Buck, or is that Tony B UK, Willie Johnson, Danielle, John Richard Seed, Sean Chomsky, Christopher Galvin, Mr. Woo's opinion, and Ruth Beckart, who paints interesting Arsenal pictures. I had a look. Fight Like Lions, JSWN. We're reading at you now. You follow us on Twitter. Anyway, James, what?
Anyway, my dad told me bullshit about backwards brains. About the ID cards.
Yeah.
What about
Let's start about that.
What about?
Go on, what's your
What
view?
do you think it's all about?
It's about control, and about eventually it'll add on and they'll control your finances, and then they'll have full... It's 1984. It's basically Big Brother watching you.
I think they will do anything to appear to stop illegal immigration other than repeal the Human Rights Act, which is the thing we actually need to do.
But they're using that as a Trojan horse to get these cards. Blair's wanted them for years.
Yeah, he has, yeah.
It's all coming from the WEF.
What happens if I lose it? Because I'd lose my balls if they weren't in the bag.
They'll be taken away and processed.
That's not the key thing. The key thing is the database that sits behind it.
Yeah, but what happens? Because I ain't got no data. I'm dataless.
We've all got data, James.
Well, you've got your medical records, you've got your bank records, you've got your
where you go, everywhere you visit.
But if my national ID card becomes my my payment card, my Oyster card or whatever, then what happens is anyone in any public body who wants to can open up, see what my current bank balance is, see everywhere I've ever lived, and by the way, who I've lived with, because they'll also be on the electoral register. You can look up my full medical details, and then you'll be able to
what you're spending your money on.
What you're spending your money on.
Let me ask you this, Andre. Let me ask you this. What's your NI number? Do you know your NI number?
JG4. Actually, I'm not going to tell you it, but I do know it, yeah.
Fucking nearly had you. I nearly had you. I was going to be you.
You can do it if you want. If you want to register using my NI number, that's fine, but you will end up paying my taxes, won't you?
Mine, NW 942742.
No. Mickey Mouse.
Anyway, thanks, James. Let's go to Andy in Seoul.
Don't give out your NI number live.
Andy, your NI number, please.
Hey, listen. Before we go to Andy, right? Do you see Mark Randall, who's doing the...
let's give his national insurance
the stuff out at the moment. When I first started, I used to do overnights, and the number of times I used to give my actual mobile number out, like all the time.
Well, accidentally,
I used to go, 07 411
Well, don't give it out now.
No, listen, getting 6 digits in is not that close. No, sorry, getting 4 digits in is not that close.
Yeah, but you could have a go.
When it's
There's a 1 in 1,000 chance. Andy, Salisbury Andy.
Hello, Ash. How are you?
We're all right, man. Yeah. How are you, man? You all right?
Yeah, I'm good.
So what's up,
man? Really good.
You sound buzzing.
I am buzzing. I've been working and I've come back and I'm watching you two.
What do you do for a job then?
I'm a delivery driver.
Nice. So what do you want to chat to us about?
Well, I want to ask, I'm seeking wisdom.
Oh, dude.
Well, you've come to the right place.
We like that. We like wisdom.
I want to know what Andre thinks of Andy Burnham as he is in his neck of the woods. And I want to know what he really thinks and not get in trouble with Ofcom.
Well, no, it's a little bit of a problem because Andy Burnham is a good friend of my dad's and has done something very nice for my dad, which may be of interest in New Year. But anyway, so I don't know. I shouldn't have done that. No, my dad doesn't watch this.
Declaring
it's all
an
right.
interest.
But
you know, there was the rape gang, grooming gang inquiry. There was a bit of a cover up in that. He also is the head of the police. He's the
also
chief. Look at the state of Manchester in special measures. You've got Piccadilly Gardens now full of crackheads. It's called Crackadilly Gardens.
The big debate about Andy Burnham is whether he was good or bad to scrap the congestion charge, because he, on the one hand, wanted to bring it in. On the other hand, he did back down when 150,000 people joined the Facebook group opposing it. Now, was that cowardice or was he responsive? I don't know. But, I mean, I think he's just a bit of a nobody, if I'm being totally honest. What do you think?
I think he's a two-faced toad.
Okay, why?
I ever since his first, because he was quite young when he was a minister, and I just don't think he was any good. I just think he was a yes man, and I just don't think he's got no ideas, he's got no solutions, he's part of the problem, not part of the solution, and I just think he should shut up and go away. And he's trying.
Yeah, but do you think that about every Labour politician?
But not just Labour.
All right, fair enough. It's not just Labour, right?
I mean, we need people with ideas, and I don't think he's got it.
So are you going to vote for reform then?
Reluctantly, yeah.
But that's your only choice at the moment, is what you're saying?
Well, I mean, I'd rather vote for a proper Conservative, but I mean, which we need to go in that direction.
Yeah.
But they're not proper Conservatives.
Well, would you consider that Reform are the new proper Conservatives then?
No.
Why not?
Because they haven't got any proper ideas. They're not strong enough.
Right. So what about Ed Davey? He does great stunts.
He's an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, you're right there.
Yeah.
Correct.
I mean, Lib Dems are total. I mean, they're the party that should be most ashamed, because they could have come in and gone in. Well, we've got different ideas. Be the third party, right? Labour and Conservative aren't working. I know. We go this way. No, I'll bungee jump off a bridge and bloody shove a penguin in my backside. Yeah.
Is that a thing that they do? What? What about your party, the Fruit and Nut Party, with Corbyn? Would you give them a chance?
I mean, not in a million years. Absolutely.
Before you say that.
They are literally communists.
Yeah.
And, I mean, she was upset the other day. She got sidelined because of all the Mad Mullers and Corbyn. And the
Mad Mullers and Corbyn. I love it.
I mean, I'm sorry. I think she's a nice enough person, but her politics absolutely suck. And as far as I'm concerned,
I mean, it's amazing, though, isn't it, that political party? They're going to be like the Gaza flotilla, and I appreciate that both I and Ash have made this point, but half of them are sort of people who believe in transsexual rights and LGB this and whatever, and the other are hardcore Islamists.
But they've been given a free hand in the West, haven't they? I mean, if you're an ethnic minority in the West, that's it.
But Corbyn genuinely believes, I think, Corbyn genuinely believes that if you abolished Israel tomorrow, every single radical Islamist in the world would suddenly like us.
Well, they would.
That is, yeah, that is
well, no, what they'd say is thank you for that. What are you doing about...
next.
What are you doing about Islamic territory in Spain that should be ours?
Yeah.
What are you doing about Greece? What are you doing about the Balkans? And then, in the fullness of time, what are you doing about Bradford, Burnley?
And in the end, Britain.
Keith Lee. Well, what they'll do, and any insurgency would do this... if you look at it, say, Keithley as an example. Keithley now has a separate legal system with the Sharia courts. It has a separate policing system, which is called community policing, and its local representatives are elected on a religious basis, rather than being elected by a political party. So they are enclaves already. They are
sectarian voting.
Yeah. What I would do if I was a jihadi, what I would do is I would say, look, Keighley is in practice now a Muslim town, and we want it to be semi-autonomous and linked much more closely to Pakistan, and perhaps as a condominium where it has joint sovereignty, UK and Pakistan. That's what I'd say, right? And now you might say I'm an extremist, but at the end of the day, they've set up Sharia courts and they've demanded separate policing. Why wouldn't you have and you know your own schools and your own language and your own religious worship? Why wouldn't you have autonomy for these places? Why wouldn't you say Scotland is a country, England is a country, Wales is a country, Northern Ireland is a country, and then Burnley, Blackburn, Keighley, Dewsbury, Birmingham, all these places are also a different country, separated by England?
Yeah.
Thanks, Andy. Yeah, that was brilliant. Let's go to Andrew in Leicestershire. Hi, Andrew.
Hello, mate. How are you?
We're all right, man. How are you?
Good. I'm all good. You've actually thrown me off track here.
Sorry.
Listening to that, because I was going to. No. It's something I'm very passionate about. I'm actually a Leicestershire County Councillor.
Okay.
So I am going to be careful what I say.
Sure.
What I was going to discuss was.
By the way, I've got a friend of mine whose grandma's house is being destroyed by a big container terminal somewhere in Leicestershire. Are you near that?
I presume that's Magna Park, is it?
I've no idea, but
yeah.
But,
Well, I'm sorry, I don't know your friend's grandma, but carry on.
Well, it's nothing. But okay, are you going to give us your name, or you don't have to?
Yeah, and what party are you with?
No, mate, I've not got a problem with it. I'm a Reform councillor, Andrew Thorpe. I'm South Leicestershire. I got elected in May.
Yeah.
Are you? And that presumably was for the first time.
Correct. Yep. Yeah.
So
I'm a lovable estate agent by trade.
Oh dear.
Ah, Robert. So what's the reason you got into it, and what's going on in Leicestershire?
About as popular as a traffic warden and a taxman. But anyway, yeah, what I was going to do before I heard your last comments, which is sort of that's probably more important one I'm going to tell you, is we recently had a meeting, a county council meeting, which was in huge support of the farmers with the IHT, which is obviously an inheritance tax.
Yeah, because it's full of farmers around in Leicestershire, obviously.
A lot,
yeah.
An awful lot. We are known as the rural county. And we have decided to put together a plan to approach Parliament, to go to Westminster and say, look, this inheritance tax is wrong. Now, whether we get listened to is another thing. However, the point I wanted to make was that we actually had two county councils, of which there are only two in Leicestershire, that voted against it, that were both Labour. And I was shocked. At that moment in time, I actually thought they would chuck their red rosettes in the bin and say, look, what's right's right here, guys. You know, we're not supporting them. And they didn't. And I was gobsmacked. And
I don't think you should have been. I mean, that's what you expect, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I was amazed that they couldn't put their. If that was me, I would have always gone for what's right.
Yeah, well, they're not. You don't get conviction politicians like that anymore.
But their view.
I know,
but isn't. But hang on.
I'm new to it.
But Andrew, you're assuming.
That's what we need, yeah.
You're assuming. Right, so we all know that Labour's policy is, if it's successful, will destroy the farming community. But of course, what you have done is you've come up with a huge assumption right in the middle of this, and it's not the assumption that you think. You assume that these people are being slavishly loyal to the Labour Party. What you've not considered the possibility is that these people genuinely agree with the destruction of rural communities. If you look at things like fox hunting, there is a fair amount of evidence that the people that were supportive of about abolishing fox hunting, though it hasn't really been abolished, but pretending to abolish fox hunting, they did it simply out of spite. If you look at the creation of inheritance tax, done simply out of spite, it costs more money to raise to administer than it actually raises, or it's roughly about the same amount. I agree with Asher when he turns around and he says that he believes that this is all to do with bringing big business into the countryside and eliminating those small business farmers. And that actually Labour people genuinely support that and think it's marvellous.
I think it's more about that it's more important for urbanisation than what it is looking after the inheritance and your traditions of the countryside.
But the thing is, Andrew, I was speaking to Lance from, the Lance Foreman, and he was telling me it's not just farmers. Any family business now that wants to pass it on will get this inheritance tax.
Yeah. These guys don't go and sell up and buy a dirty great place in Barley.
Yeah.
It's transferred from granddad to great-granddad to granddad.
And they might only make 50 grand a year, but 20% of their farm might be £1 million, and they can't afford it. And that's why they're doing it, because Bill Gates wants, and the other,
where they are.
They want the farmland. They want the farmland to go to the corporates. You know, to take control. They want all the things that are essential for living. They want that. This is why now rentals houses are being taken over by BlackRock and massive corporations. Once they've got it all, then they'll.
It's communities, it's workers, it's shops, it's your buses that will fail. The villages will fail. Everything will go to pot if we allow this to happen. And the problem is everything that Mr. Starmer's doing now. It's going to take a whole term to bring this back to where...
I'll tell you what, Andrew, just wait with us a couple of minutes, because we're going to go to a break, but I wouldn't mind knowing what your impressions are as a new councillor in Leicestershire County Council. Doesn't matter that it's Leicestershire, it doesn't matter that it's you, it's just a new Reform councillor's come in, and also Andrew's been appointed to the Audit Committee. It's quite interesting to work out how much waste they've found already. We'll be back in a mo. Yeah, before the break, we said that we'd speak to Andrew, who is a councillor, county councillor, newly elected by Reform, just about what your impressions are of government waste in local government.
Well, it's huge, absolutely huge. This is one of the reasons on our main concerns. Unfortunately, I don't sit on the cabinet last year, but I am a part of 5 other scrutiny committees, and we've got a massive hole, a big hole to plug in Leicestershire with wastage. We've already, within a couple of months, we've saved £2 million on net zero, because we think it's a waste of time. We've banged that straight into flooding. because we have a big problem with that in Leicestershire,
Sure.
right the way from Barrow, right the way down to Leicestershire. So we've not wasted that money. We've put it straight into flooding. We at the moment, we've got some great deals going with I say deals, I sound like Donald Trump, with Bernardo's for care homes. But we're 5 months into this, and we're coming under, as you'd expect, great criticism, but we are making big steps forward. And I genuinely believe that within 2 years, we'd have plugged that £80 million gap, probably have halved it. And you're going to ask me, where's it coming from? That is 101.
Where's it coming
ways
from?
That we can halve it. Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, if you look at the structure of us, we've got a director. Then underneath, we've got a sort of sub-director and a so for every director, we've got 3 sub-directors. Yeah. And I'm not going to quote what sort of money is they're on per year, but of every one of those, we've got another 3 or 4 subdivision directors under that. Yeah. And you think, well, we're so top-heavy.
And what makes me laugh, of course, Andrew, and we're going to have to leave it there, is none of them are legally directors, because you can only be a director of a limited company.
And they'll all end up with massive pensions, which just comes out your council tax. You wouldn't believe how much. Anyway, David in Belfast, how about you?
What about you, big man?
What about thee?
Dead on, big guys. Like, listen to the AA meetings. But no, just giving you a wee call.
Yeah.
Stormers, smoking mirrors keep coming up. Yeah. He's put this one for ID cards. He keeps putting smoking mirrors up every time he makes a mess, like last week with Palestine. So this is another smoking mirror. He knows people will reject it.
David, can I ask you this? Because I think the people of Northern Ireland have done phenomenally well with the peace process. I know it's not perfect, and I actually think as a unionist, I'm a unionist, I don't know what you are, I think actually Northern Ireland is pretty secure in the United Kingdom, perhaps in a way that Scotland is not. And so I'm pretty pleased about that. But what's your view on what's happened in the Middle East? Because on the one hand, you could say that that Netanyahu's right, that we're rewarding terrorists by recognising Palestine. On the other hand, you went through a lot of difficult things in Northern Ireland in terms of being nice to terrorists. That
different types of terrorists.
Yeah, sure. But that has ultimately secured your position, or our position.
Yeah, well, we took one in the knee for Brexit.
Yeah.
So we took one in the knee. We have land borders, north, south, with land borders from Scotland, with land borders from South Ireland, but we can't restrict illegal immigrants.
But this is the unbelievable thing. It's Sinn Féin, isn't it? That is bringing all these. It's basically you're getting the problem with Sinn Féin that we get with our governments, that we've had the Tory and Labour, and you'd think, well, Sinn Féin.
But what is sad about the Shinners is that it's now very clear that the only people they hate are the British. They love everybody else.
Yeah, but they're ruining the play with all the.
But if Northern Ireland was full of Somalians, they'd be delighted. It's just the British they don't want there.
Well, that's the way it's always been, and that's the way they are. And I'm British. I am an Ulster unionist, loyalist, and we've held this country forever. From 1690 when King William came, it wasn't our problem, but that's the way it happened.
Yeah, King Billy's on the wall, I believe. OK, thank you so much to David.
Thanks,
so listen, you want to talk about it, Ben Fletcher from TalkSport, don't you? My boxing film debut.
Yeah, go on.
TalkSport and TalkTV.
How did it go?
OK, so I'm playing Gary Newbon in the new film, you know, the sports presenter.
When he used to go in the ring after, he's playing him. Ben Fletcher's who's coming up after us. That's who this is in that
So I watched Gary Newbon's interview.
Like a James Wales
I had to interview. I had to interview Nigel Benn when McClellan went down, and I had to interview Chris Eubank when Michael Watson went down. And what I watched was, on both occasions, Newborn Bomb was dreadful. Like, he just completely cocked up the interviews. And so I didn't know what to do when I got into the ring.
What do you mean he cocked up the interviews? Because they didn't know they were seriously injured at that point.
No, so it's an example. What he said to Nigel Benn was, he said, there's a problem with Michael McKenna. Yeah. I mean, Malcolm McClellan. I mean, Gerald McClellan. I'm getting confused now, right? So I thought, because what they do is, I'll explain what I've done. I've done a couple of films where I've basically played an interviewer or a political correspondent or whatever, and so they don't give me a script. Because I said to them, I said, well, it's ludicrous for me to be a presenter and an interviewer pretending to be an actor, pretending to be a presenter and an interviewer, because it's just not going to work. So I just make it up as I go along, and
made more sense than Gary Newton.
I did make more
that's
sense.
The thing, isn't
It's
it?
a new job, actually.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? You know, are you true to the original?
Yes.
Or do you try and improve it? Because
Well, he used to be
people
of
say
this
that's not how
parish,
it went.
Gary Newbond.
Formerly of this parish,
or
absolutely.
as James Rowe used to call him, Gary Newbond. But what's coming up on your show, man?
Loads coming up. Max Scott, our head of Nottingham Forest, he was away in Real Betis this week. Yeah. So Nottingham Forest back in Europe for the first time in 30 years. Yeah, so he was sent on a TalkSport holiday. So he was working. But not particularly hard, I don't think. So we'll be catching up with him. Premier League football to look forward to. Brentford v Manchester United kicks us off at 12:30. A relegation 6-pointer, some may say.
Now, what's your views? Because there's all talk now, it all comes
I love the way we don't know how to respond to that.
We'll just go on something else.
But you know what it reminds me of, Asher? It reminds me of when they used to have... You used to come in for the breakfast show with Harley Brewer, and they go, Ben Butterworth, what do you think? And he knew nothing at all.
Always.
But what about, they're now all ganging up on Israel, saying they should be banned from Europe and the World Cup. And what's your views? I mean, Lineker backed that, didn't he? It's something he would do, wouldn't he? But what's your views on that? I think
it gets very, very difficult when, football and politics should always be kept separate in my book. But I think there does reach a point when, we banned Russia. I say we. World Football banned Russia for their incursion of Ukraine.
They were the aggressors.
They were. And I know there's a lot made about the October the 7th attacks in Israel and Palestine and everything else, but this is why it gets very, very tricky, and why I think...
Well, they're saying it's genocide. There's no genocide going on. I mean, our government says
Danielle Nichols says that Wembley should not have been lit up for Ukraine, and she said the reason is because once you start this, you never stop.
Well, this is exactly it. This is exactly my point.
That's what happened on October the 7th. They wouldn't put the blue and white of the Israeli flag.
She got into trouble for opposing Wembley being lit up, but she had opposed the Ukrainian lights.
Yeah, but with South Africa, when they boycotted it, it did have an effect, didn't it? I mean, obviously Israel is nothing like that. That's the thing. It's a load of bias and bunkum, and it's basically been driven from the UN and people like Gary Lineker.
How hard is it for you to stay out of politics if you're interested in these big sporting occasions?
Quite easy for me personally. I think it's the punters I feel sorry for. I mean, look, if the people of Israel who want to see their football team play, the people of Russia, who are against the war, and whatever you think about the people from Russia, ultimately they're the ones that are missing out. But you have to punish the country. You're punishing the aggressors, but at the same time, again, football and politics should be separate. But is it palatable for Israel to be out of World Cup in the same way?
Well, yeah, because it's all a load of bunkum that they say they're a genocidal state. I mean, if they're saying that about Israel, that means we kill more innocent civilians proportionately.
Forgive me, Ben, because I don't know a great deal about football, but
neither do I.
In the Olympics, you can go as a non-attached person. So if your country's been banned,
Russia, that's what happened with the Russians.
What happens in football? Is there any equivalent? No,
there isn't. No, none whatsoever.
Which is a shame,
maybe that's an idea. I mean, maybe you could have that as a way of so teams can still participate, but they have the so-called shame of not doing it under their flag.
Because it's not about an individual, is it? It is a team. And that's
it is, and I guess
but can you imagine being a great footballer from Russia at the moment, and there are plenty of them, and just not being allowed? It's dreadful.
The aim ultimately, what is the aim? We want to stop all wars. That's very idealistic, I know, but is Israel and Russia being banned from World Cups going to stop the bloodshed? Probably not.
No.
Separate sport and politics for me.
Absolutely. OK, well, look, Ben Fletcher's coming up. The one thing I do want to say, finally, before this show finishes, good luck to everyone participating in the Moldovan election. And the reason